Oh, you know what I love?
Sports.
Love sports.
Sports.
When it comes to Texas A&M.
Where are you getting this information?
Let me tell you.
Welcome to TexAgs.
I need to talk a little sports with you, Ags. David Nuño here with TexAgs Radio.
Welcome back to TexAgs Stacked. I'm Billy Lucci.
Olin, Buchanan.
Make a mistake. We're not going anywhere. This is going to be a great program, and we're building it into a great program.
The best way for us to win is to do it together.
Do you realize everybody knows who you are right now?
I stand by what we do and how we do it.
Schools are like, we're freaking Texas A&M, man. Like,
That's about as pretty a throw-catch combo as there is.
I saw the safety roll, the slot fade. I knew where I needed to put the ball.
You had no other option but one hand at that point.
Yeah, man, 50-50 ball, I got to come down with it.
You know, if I'm betting on anybody, it's the Aggies.
Well, hello, everybody. Me condoning, or excuse me, let me rephrase that because I looked at my notes what I wanted to talk about. Me explaining something is not condoning. Welcome into TexAgs Radio. Here presented by David Gardner's Jewelers in the Rollo Insurance Studio. I am David Nuño, and he is Olin Buchanan.
I'm interested to know where that's going to go. With the whole you condoning doesn't mean
Doesn't mean you condone. Yeah, like just me explaining something of what I think is happening doesn't necessarily mean I'm okay with things. And this kind of goes back to your rant on Monday, and it wasn't even a rant. It was
kind of a rant, but that's okay.
But like, you expect championship level football, right?
Right.
Year 6 for Jimbo, you expect that. It's not too much to ask for, right? And I forgot how I phrased whatever my thing was, but I think they're cleaning things up each week. They're not playing at a championship level yet. And there was a post on this. This is why I bring this up. I think we're going in the right direction. That does not mean I don't agree with you.
Okay.
That means I'm just telling you where we are right now. If both of us just rant for an hour every time things are bad, I don't think that's good radio, and that doesn't represent our entire audience, right? So what I do here is I bring up points, and sometimes I bring up points for the sake of conversation. If you've not watched my post-game shows when the Aggies win or lose, if you don't see frustration in my eyes after the Miami game and the App State game and me saying this is unacceptable and think that means I condone going off sides in red zone opportunities, then you don't know what the heck you're thinking, because I don't condone it. I don't accept it, but I don't also have to go after the coaching staff every time there's a penalty to feel like I'm doing a service to the people watching and listening.
Okay.
Just because I point out I think we're getting better each week doesn't mean I'm okay with some of the results we see.
And to clarify, from my standpoint, I was happy with a win over Auburn.
Yeah, of course you were.
But I was trying to look at that performance through the scope of, can that performance beat Alabama and on the road at Tennessee and on the road at Ole Miss and LSU?
Some of this was because of the stupid penalties that happen in inopportune times, right?
Right.
So I did a little research, and by the way, stats don't tell the whole story. Would you say that, like, championship level teams typically don't make a lot of mistakes?
Typically don't make a lot of mistakes. There's always mistakes.
Always, right? Bama's one of those teams over the last 5-10 years, probably doesn't make a lot of mistakes, right?
Right.
Georgia probably.
Right.
Okay. I say that to you because, A, I believe it to be true. I've seen it to be true. But it doesn't always tell you the whole story. Over the last 5 years, there are 2 teams that have been penalized more per game than anybody else.
Yeah, probably Alabama and LSU probably.
Alabama, Ole Miss, top 2 teams.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Now,
it probably means they had the ball the most.
Over the last 5 years, Georgia is the least. So there is that, and they've won the last 2 championships. So what I'm saying is it doesn't always tell you the whole story. Another little one. This particular year, A&M gets a lot of penalties. Way too much. 114th in the country, 7.75. a couple of teams that are right by them.
I know Arkansas's.
Well, Arkansas's
more.
worse. 9 a game.
Yeah.
Okay. Miami and Oklahoma. Miami beat you.
Okay.
Had a lot of penalties in that game.
Okay.
They averaged 7.5 per game. Oklahoma having a pretty good start to their season. I haven't played anybody, but they have a good start to their season. 7.5 per game. Clemson. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're having a tough start to their season. 2-2.
Yeah.
They are 14th in the country. And they're 2-2. So they don't make a lot of mistakes. Yet it doesn't. So I guess what I'm saying is, it doesn't tell you everything. It's a good thing to strive for. And you better not do it at inopportune times, which I think is what is happening for A&M more than ever.
I think that's what it is most of all. It's when do you have those mistakes? It's like I mentioned Dak Prescott yesterday. When you get into the red zone, that's when you almost expect him to throw an interception. Then the impact of the mistake gets magnified.
Yes.
Right? So it's like the guy who hits 300, but never seems to come through
when it matters.
with bases on with men on base.
People said that about Craig Biggio and Jeff Bagwell back in the day.
Really?
Yeah, because for many years until they got to the World Series, and even that year they weren't phenomenal. The pitching staff was just great. That was 2005, I think. 5. Those guys had a reputation. The Killer Bees had a reputation for not really delivering in the postseason. They eventually did. They didn't win a World Series, but they did eventually heat up a little bit. But yes. It's about what you do when it matters. And also, with how many weeks we have left of the season? We have 8, at least, right?
Yeah.
With 8 weeks left, I'm just not going to rant about everything every week.
Right.
And I can agree with you, and I did, and I still do. Like, you can't have those. If you want to win these games, a team that went, and yes, it is year 6. Enough of it. It's also year whatever for Nick Saban, and he's getting, penalties. By the way, I did want to bring up these 2 other stats. Texas having an excellent start to their season, regardless of what you think about their schedule. They don't get penalized very much, 4.25. Mississippi State, I think, having a pretty bad start to their season, penalized 4.75 per game. So it's an indicator. It's good data. It doesn't tell you everything. You should strive for very little penalties, obviously.
Well, again, it's there's going to be penalties, but when do you get them? And one more, and I'm going to make another baseball analogy. Reggie Jackson. I mentioned the guys that never get the
Mr. October.
Right. His career batting average was 260.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, but what made him great was when it mattered most is when he was. I mean, he was clutch, right?
Yeah, he was.
So that's what I'm talking about. When you get down close to scoring, are you the guy? Are you the team that executes and makes the plays that make you win, or are you the team that somehow panics and maybe the coach sends a play in late and you're taking timeouts and then somebody jumps or somebody misses a block and so you don't convert 3rd and 1 and those kind of things.
100%.
And great teams might make a lot of penalties between the 20s and 20s, but when they get a chance to score and put an opponent away, that's when they're clutch.
100%. So I think we can agree that less of getting penalties anywhere, but especially in the red zone with opportunities to score at the end of games and yada, yada, yada. We agree. But I don't have to rant and rave about it for me to agree. I can also see, hey, they are improving in certain areas. They are. I want to read this line from your buddy Matt Hayes.
Okay.
Because I think it's,
he is a buddy of mine.
He is. Yeah, he's a nice guy. I think it's a pretty good line.
Okay.
Tell me what you think about it. The Aggies aren't as bad as the ugly loss in Miami.
Okay.
But aren't as good as we originally thought this offseason. They're just there. I don't know if I agree with that, but there is something to it.
Right now, today, I agree with him. And that's the frustrating part because, again, we've talked about this, you can break it down individually and look at how much talent is on the team, right? I mean, there's talent there. So flip that switch, start playing to the level of your talent as a team. As your individual talent, everybody plays, and A&M can beat anybody. I want to say, I asked you off air before we got on, who's the dominant team in college football this year?
I mean, Nobody.
Nobody.
Florida State looked really good in their first game against LSU. They've looked okay. They've won.
And they've had great fortune the last 2 weeks to pull out wins.
Texas beat Alabama. Well, we have questions about Bama right now. They've looked really good in the other ones.
Well, did they really look really good against Rice?
They didn't look really good
Did they
against
look
Rice.
really good against Wyoming?
No, but
No.
They look good against Baylor.
Who doesn't?
Well, this year especially.
Texas State looked good against Baylor.
Yeah.
So anyway, the point is, as of now, 1/3 of the way through the season, nobody really looks like a dominant team. So it's not just the West is out there. Everything you've been waiting for since 1939 is attainable
As of
if
right
you'll
now,
just clean up your own messes.
Clean up your messes. I'm still a little worried about the secondary, as I should be.
Well, but start tackling in the secondary. Clean up your messes.
Please clean up your messes. That should be their slogan.
It's all out there for you.
Can you imagine walking on the field and you know that wall that by the locker room with all the pictures and clean up your mess.
Clean up your mess.
It has a picture of your mom pointing. Clean up your mess.
Whatever it takes to get you motivated to play at a high level and be better as a team, because there's nothing that this team doesn't have the talent to accomplish.
Yep. A couple of notes for you. Arkansas is ranked number 98 in yards rushing this year. Okay. And Rocket Sanders has barely played.
Yeah,
right?
he got hurt his knee in the first game, but he'll probably play this week.
Of course he'll play. Of course he'll play.
He was in practice last week, but they decided he wasn't quite ready.
Arkansas, number 2 in the SEC with sacks and picks. They have 14 sacks and 6 interceptions.
Right. So you'll protect your quarterback and take care of the ball, and you should be in pretty good shape against those
Protect your
Hogs.
quarterback, and apparently they have had issues with running quarterbacks. I would not call Max a running quarterback, but he's a quarterback that can run.
He can run. He can run very well when he has to. In fact, he ran really well against Arkansas last year, and one of his best runs was like a 30-yard run, and it got called back because of a block in the back that wasn't necessary.
Another one for you. Arkansas, 5th in run defense in the SEC, a little better than A&M, 89 yards per game.
And that's very deceiving, because look at the teams they played and look who they haven't been able to run against also. Like BYU is one of the worst running teams in the country. It doesn't matter who they're playing.
Yep, you're exactly right. So I throw those out at you just as we get closer to the game.
How's Arkansas doing in pass defense? You know, last year they were the
They're
worst
not very
pass
good.
defense in the country.
They're not very good at pass defense.
So what are you? What we're suggesting is maybe A&M has a significant advantage with their receivers against the Arkansas DBs.
I think there's an advantage there for sure. Now KJ can sling it.
Oh, KJ can sling it, no doubt about that.
He can sling, and they got some big receivers.
They do.
They're not Evan Stewart. They're not Noah Thomas.
But
they're not
they're
Ja'Day
good enough
Walker,
to
but
beat
they're
you.
good.
That freshman tight end is having a big year. He had 2 touchdown catches against LSU last week. Luke Haas or something.
Auburn for sure, right? I'm just gonna. This is an easy statement after this last game. The worst team A&M's going to play outside of the non-conference at the end of the year, Abilene Christian, right?
Maybe not. Mississippi State's really struggling.
You think Mississippi State is worse than?
Well, I didn't think they would be coming into the year. Now I don't know. I think that's going to be an interesting game. I'm still not sold on South Carolina. But they played really well for a half against Georgia.
And what worries me about South Carolina is
they throw.
Excuse me?
They can throw.
They can throw. Spencer Rattler's having a nice year. Is it Leggett who's just dominating?
Their number 1 receiver, I can't think of his name right now. He got hurt, and I don't know if he's out for the whole year or not. He was their leading receiver, Van. Why can't I think of his name right now? Anyway, but Leggett's the guy that returned the opening kickoff, I think, for a touchdown last year.
I feel like I heard somebody talking in the background. Was that Dalton? Let's go behind the glass and say hi to Dalton Hughes if he's even there. I'm sorry, I thought I heard some whispering. Dalton, good morning, buddy.
I didn't say anything. Wasn't from me.
Well, you can
I think
still
someone
say hi.
in the third row saying Juice Wells. Is that
Juice.
who I was thinking of?
Juice. That's exactly who you're thinking of. Juice Wells.
Juice Wells.
Yes.
Well, there's a long time before South Carolina. We're going to have a lot more data points when it comes to Texas A&M. Dalton, how you doing, buddy?
Oh, I'm good. Just another day in the life.
Okay. Good times.
Okay.
You know, this is the go hour. I didn't say that earlier.
Yeah, it is the go hour.
Yeah.
Well, we started going pretty fast.
I was ready to start.
Yeah.
And we are presented by the Warehouse of CC Creation.
Well,
We're the go hour.
I knew that. I knew that.
Just making sure that you knew that information. Let's go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. Aggies gather at the Angry Elephant. That's where we find Kennedy Cavan. Kennedy, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm good.
Good. I made you giggle. Good. What's up?
Not much. Just hanging out. Another day in the life, as Dalton said.
Yeah, another day, another day. So I know you got some text messages for us and some notes.
I sure do. I'm going to start off with the notes, which is basically just who's playing in Aggieland this week. That's what we should call it. Who's playing in Aggieland this week?
We can get a sponsor behind that.
Yeah.
Right.
So who's playing in Aggieland this week?
We got men's golf. They got some SEC match play today. And then I'm personally excited about this. Women's volleyball at number 4 Florida. That's going to be a really, really good match to watch if you're into volleyball at all.
I'm into volleyball. You are so into volleyball that even when you're off of work and Jamie Morrison's here, you come in the studio to listen to that.
I sure do. I am very bought into that program right now. I think he is fantastic as a head coach. And then we got cross country at the Battle in Beantown. And then equestrian at number 7 Baylor. And then men's swimming and diving at University of Incarnate Word. And then, of course, this weekend we got Arkansas up in Jerry's World.
Jerry World. I was one of those that used to call it Jerry's World.
I thought it was Jerry.
It is Jerry World.
Jerry's.
No, it's Jerry World.
I think the correct pronunciation is Jerry's.
But it is actually trademarked as Jerry World.
Oh.
Like Disney World. It's not Disney's World. And then, by the way, I used to be on Jerry's
Okay,
team.
so Jerry World.
I just call AT&T Stadium.
Okay.
You don't say Jerry World?
No.
Jerry should call the show. Does anybody we know do a fake Jerry Jones? Because that would be kind of good radio.
Yeah, that would be. Why couldn't we get the real?
I tried.
No, we can try again, right?
Yeah, we can keep trying.
He likes to.
I mean, I feel like he would, like, you guys would, like, party together. Well.
Why didn't you? Well, I've actually been to a
Olin
party
and
that Jerry
Jerry.
Jones threw for the media once.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Huh?
I was covering
the Cowboys?
the Cowboys. What do you call it? Training camp when it was in Austin, and he invited the media.
You never
out.
you never got to go to Oxnard?
No.
That'd be a good trip.
It would be.
That'd be a really good trip.
Anyway, Jerry's actually a good guy.
I like Jerry. My
He's a-
very few encounters with him, I found him to be very nice.
He's a fun party guy.
Yeah, he is. Miss Cabin, I know you got a question for us.
Yeah, Sutton and College Station texted in bright and early this morning, and they asked if you were going to bet a paycheck on the next 2 games coming up, would it be Arkansas with a really good quarterback, poor offensive line, and poor defensive secondary in Jerry World, or Bama with a very poor quarterback, average offensive line, and really good defense at Kyle Field? Which one is the better matchup for the Aggies?
Take away the name.
Mm-hmm.
Take away the name.
Okay.
I think Bama's the better matchup. Recognizing the name, I think Arkansas is the more believable win based on what I've seen this season and understanding the matchup history.
I would say if I had to bet, I would bet it this week. We keep hearing how bad a passing quarterback Alabama has, and I keep going back to the 3 touchdown passes he threw against A&M last year.
Sure. Yeah. Different A&M team. God, we hope. What was A&M's record going into this game last year? 3-1?
Was it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or maybe it was 2-1.
Yeah,
It was
because they had beaten Miami. No, it was 3-1 because they had beaten Miami and Sam Houston, and they had lost, and they'd beaten somebody. I think
lost to App State.
Nobody, and lost to App State. Maybe it was.
I think it was 2-1.
Maybe it was
entering
2-1.
this because it was the first SEC game last year. This year's the second one, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I guess you're probably right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's. You answer the question though. You think?
I'd say Arkansas.
Arkansas, yeah. But if you took away the names and just gave me that information, I'd probably say Bama. But I know that Saban's there, so it kind of.
Any team that has a pass defense that's struggling, I'm going to like my chances if I'm with A&M.
Buddy, I'm talking about our meeting tomorrow. We're just going to have some serious.
MEATING.
Well, that's how we're going to spell
Yeah.
it. But I mean, we need to talk about real business stuff.
Yeah, let's talk business.
You know, we'll talk about what party we're going to go to in Dallas. No, actually, we're not going to go to any parties. But we are going to talk at Fargo's about our show on Friday that we're doing, right?
Yeah.
Thanks to the Charge Apparel.
We have to, so that way we can expense it as a.
I wasn't necessarily alluding to the expense, but I mean, when in Rome, if we're talking business at Fargo's, why not?
And that's the great place to talk business because
you're thinking for something, right?
No, you're eating good.
Yeah.
So you're feeling good. So you're thinking good.
But here's my worry, and this is the food is so good, I'm going to overeat. That's a little bit of a worry. But then, that feeling where you get really tired and we got a 3.5-hour drive right after that. That's the part I'm worried about. But I tag you in and you take over.
Yeah.
Here's
what I'm thinking.
For other reasons.
I'm thinking it's going to be Thursday. We're going to be there for lunch. We're going to be talking about the Razorbacks and what you have to do to devour the Razorbacks. So we order a pork chop, and it kind of works together. Razorbacks, pork chop. You ever had a Razorback pork chop?
Don't know.
I don't know. That's probably what you're going to get at Fargo.
By the way, socially acceptable to eat a pork chop with your hands?
Oh, absolutely. I eat soup with my hands.
Well, I've seen you do that. Actually.
Yeah,
you don't it's not with your fingers. You cup it.
Yeah. But a pork chop with your hands, of course, because you gotta
get close to the bone.
It's so good, especially at Fargo's. You gotta get in there, like you said, close to the bone, get every bit of it.
Show the people.
You gotta get in there and just get all that pork chop.
You look a little more angry than I was expecting.
I'm angry because I don't have a pork chop right now.
Do it with
from
a smile.
Fargo's.
Do it with a smile. Try it.
It's such a good pork chop. I just love it. I just wanna make love to it while I'm eating.
Okay. 1701 South Texas Avenue in Bryan, without a doubt. The what?
The best barbecue in Texas, i.e., the best barbecue in the world.
Irma's a little jealous of your love for Fargo's. I'm just going to go ahead and tell you. It's their trademark because
it's absolutely true.
It's Fargo's. Welcome back in, TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Go Hour, presented by The Warehouse at CC Creations.
Maybe the best thing that ever came out of Arkansas right there. Johnny Cash.
Juanito Cash.
See.
Big fan. Hey, OB, I'm going to read you a stat. It's not even a stat. It's just it's a statement stat.
Okay.
Max Johnson has played in 25 games in his collegiate career.
All right.
In 11 of those games, he has thrown for 2 or more touchdowns. That's a pretty good number right there.
Half of them?
Yeah. I like it.
I would want to know how many interceptions he's thrown.
That number I don't have in front of me, but I know that Kennedy Cabot, who loves research, can tell us that answer within 34 seconds. If I were her, what I would do is type on my Google, Max Johnson stats, boom, career, log, boom, interceptions counted up. That's what I would do if I were her. And by now, she should probably have that answer. Kennedy Cabot at the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. Were you able to do all that, or were you listening to me more?
I'm like pulling it up right now. There was confetti on Google, and I got excited.
Pardon?
He's thrown 7 interceptions in his
give
entire
me
career.
37 more seconds.
He just did
his entire career.
Oh, okay, he did it already.
From 2020 to 2023, he's thrown 7 interceptions in his entire career. 6 of them in 2021 when he started every game for LSU behind a rancid offensive line. So here's a guy that takes care of the ball. So if he continues that way against Arkansas, that'll be a huge. You just mentioned how Arkansas has had a lot of interceptions, and even though they're not very good in the secondary as far as stopping the pass, so that's kind of how they compensate.
Yep.
So take care of the football. That'll be the very first step toward winning that game.
Let's do some games to watch, Olin Buchanan, shall we?
Yeah, I was thinking about A&M because I think A&M has one of the more intriguing matchups of the week, but everybody's going to watch that. I don't have to tell you about that, right? Yep. So I think, how about USC at Colorado? Colorado last week was, some people think that they were exposed as frauds where they got lost, 42-6 to Oregon. So, hey, this week maybe there's a chance to prove that they're not frauds, or maybe, give evidence to that case, if they get blown out again by USC, which is as explosive as Oregon, but probably not as good defensively as Oregon.
I wanted to say this about Colorado because I feel like you're allowed to root for them sometimes and are allowed to root against them sometimes. That's called college football. Like, you choose the storyline that week that suits your appetite, right? Like, I think I told you in the TCU game, I went from wanting them to lose to I want to see them win, right? There was that. Last week, I enjoyed them getting beat down. It's just part of the drama that makes college football so great. It doesn't mean that I'm anti-Deion or for Deion or not or whatever. Like, I think it's okay to go up and down based on what you feel that week.
Yeah, I'm just curious to see where it's going to go. I don't care if they win or they lose. Where's this going? Yeah. It's kind of like a David Nuño opening of the show. I'm like,
I don't know where he's going.
Where's he going with this? I'm intrigued.
Well, sometimes I don't go anywhere. We just keep talking.
Next, how about another Pac-12 game? How about number 10 Utah at number 19 Oregon State? Now, if I asked you in August, would you believe, or if I told you in August that in 4 weeks this would be a matchup of top 20 teams, would you believe it? No. I mean, what's going on here? Well, it goes back to my comment about college football. There's no dominant teams. Utah's number 10, Oregon State's number 19, and I guess I would say I expect Utah to win this, but
DJU?
You don't just walk into Corvallis and expect to come out unscathed.
Do you actually go to Corvallis?
I've never been.
Me neither.
Yeah. How about this? Number 20, I can't believe this is a matchup of ranked teams. Number 24, Kansas at number 3, Texas.
Can Kansas do the Lord's work? Can they do the Lord's work?
They have a history of giving the Longhorns problems. Even that year, I think it was either the year they won the national Texas won the national championship, or maybe it's the year before. Even a phantom offensive pass interference penalty.
Yeah.
Cost Kansas a win over Texas. And then, of course, I think the last time they were in Austin, they won. Let's see if they can remain problematic, because this is a good Kansas team, apparently.
I feel like Kansas is good. I do think Texas is good, and it bugs me, but I think they're good. I do.
Well,
Quinn Ewers having a solid start. I think he's got, 8 touchdowns, no picks?
Yeah, they're good. There's no doubt about it. Give credit where credit is due. But that said, other than the Alabama game, what's the really impressive win? Kansas may be their biggest challenge since Alabama.
Absolutely.
How about this one? Number 13 LSU at number 20 Ole Miss. What are you expecting this game, David?
I'm expecting LSU to roll, and I'm curious if Quinshon Judkins actually has himself a game because he has been very quiet this year. Very, very, very quiet. So I think Ole Miss is a bunch of frauds.
Okay.
And I think LSU is legit good. Maybe not what everybody thought they were going to be before the season, but I think they're legit good, and I think they're gonna roll. I
think LSU's going to get a lot of yards in the passing game, and I think LSU's going to give up a lot of yards in the passing game.
Well, that's what they've done.
Yeah. And then I think this is the game of the week. Number 11, Notre Dame at number 17, Duke. Hey, one team's undefeated, and it's Duke.
It's Duke. And they're getting a lot of, I don't want to say a lot of national love, but they're getting some love, buddy. They're absolutely getting some love.
You know what? And they also have a coach that would play with 11 men on the field instead of 10.
This is true. I still think Notre Dame is better, but
They may be. But you know what? I think that the difference isn't as wide as, some might think. I think that Duke team's really good.
Yeah, that Duke team is and they're coached well.
They are coached well. And by the way, I think especially if Duke wins this year, I would be really surprised if Mike Elko's the coach there next year. I mean, if they win this week, especially if they win this week.
But what if they win the ACC, buddy?
Very Steve Spurrier-esque.
Yeah.
And then what did Steve Spurrier do when he won the?
He went a little south.
I think he's the last coach to win a conference championship at Duke. I think it was 1989. They went 6-1 or 7-1 in the ACC under Spurrier, and then he, that went on to establish himself as one of the greatest coaches ever.
Let's hit a break here. When we come back on TexAgs Radio, the OB Power Rankings. You got your power rankings ready?
I'll have them ready.
All right. Before we do that, let's talk about the Charge apparel. Good buddies over there. Tucker doing great work, of course, and Travis as well. They're just really good people out there. And they've got these new maroon polos, and you got to jump all over these. These are awesome. And remember, we always talk about how good the fit is. I'm telling you, these maroon ones are out of this world good. Slightly tailor fit through the chest and the arms, designed to make you look and feel your absolute best. Cullen Glaspia has been wearing them. He's been posting them on social. Check it out. He loves wearing them. He says people stop them all the time. And they want to make sure that you pursue the charge in your life. And they've got a lot of people who are doing that with Bryce Anderson and his football camp. Just people who are definitely trying to put that charge back in their life. Henry Coleman's got some good videos out there as well about that. So you want to certainly check it out. Really good stuff there at the Charge Apparel. The website is thechargeapparel.com. Polos made right here in the United States. Aggie owned and operated, as I've mentioned before. Tucker and Travis met at A&M in the Corps. Afterwards, they both went into the military. After separating from the military, they started the Charge Apparel, and 12% of those total sales are donated to veteran nonprofit partners with a focus on mental health initiatives. The website is thechargeapparel.com. Find them on Instagram, The Charge Apparel, or on X, The Charge Brand. Why are you doing the Stevie Wonder?
I don't know. I'm just enjoying George Strait.
TexAgs Radio.
You ever seen Niagara Falls?
No.
I haven't either.
Yeah. I'd like to go, though.
Yeah, I would too.
It'd be nice.
You ever been to Yellowstone? Like he was.
No, I'd like to go to Yellowstone.
Yeah,
though.
me too. That's coming up soon in my life. I'm old enough. I need to start doing this.
Didn't you tell
stuff.
me the show was coming back?
Yeah,
that was an absolute lie.
It was.
I thought I was
I've
right.
been lied to as well.
I thought I remember I said to you, I think they're just doing a marathon. You're like, no, it's the new season.
That's what I was told.
I was like, isn't there the writers' strike going on or whatever?
What if they had already done it before the strike?
They hadn't, because Kevin Costner and Home Slice don't talk anymore.
What a terrible thing. You know,
Taylor Sheridan
to leave all their fans hanging like that.
Has a little intrigue.
I mean, come on, Kevin, finish a job.
Finish the freaking job. Don't get a penalty in the red zone.
Yeah, he's the penalty of the red zone actor.
Yeah, in the last 2 minutes of a game with a chance to win.
Mm. Yeah, he's not clutch.
No, he was pretty clutch for the first few seasons though.
20 to 20. He's fine from the 20 to 20. Got down in the red zone and he choked.
By the way, we're TexAgs Radio. We're presented by David Gardner's Jewelers in the Rollo Insurance Studio, the official insurance provider of TexAgs Radio. The difference is real. The headquarters is here in College Station on Highway 6. Call them up, 888-44-ROLLO, or go to rolloinsurance.com. All right, buddy. Let's get in. I said that like not a nice way.
Yeah, it's all right. It's fine.
All right, friend.
Hey, feel free to interject and disagree.
Let me just ask.
Okay.
Missouri's in the top 4 still?
No.
Okay. Weren't they in the top 4 last week?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
But it's crazy this year in the SEC.
It
All right,
is.
I'm going to put Georgia 1.
Okay. They are.
Okay, I'm putting LSU 2. Okay, you're good with me so far?
Let me think out loud. Yeah, I think so
Okay.
far I'm good.
Alabama, I'm putting 3.
Let me let this stew for a second. No. Okay, I'm going with it. A&M number 4.
Now I put Florida 4.
Ay, concho. That means darn it.
I put A&M 5.
Okay, I think Florida has a bigger win, so yes. Even though I don't believe in them, but I think I
Yeah,
don't
I'm the
believe in
same
them
way.
because of preseason narratives as opposed to what we've seen, and they did look bad in that first game. They fixed it since. A&M, they've had 2 real big games, failed one test, exceeded another.
I need A&M to beat what I think is a decent team.
So if they
win against Arkansas, look for them to take a.
If they double-digit win against Arkansas, for sure.
I think any win over
okay.
Arkansas. I've got Arkansas 6.
Okay.
I now have Ole Miss 7. I know that doesn't make sense, but Arkansas. I was actually impressed with them in the loss to LSU.
I was too, but you weren't impressed with them in the loss to BYU.
Right. 8, I got Missouri.
They've fallen that far.
Yeah, I didn't really believe it last week with the
But
win
they're
over Kansas State.
undefeated.
Did they look really good that last week?
But they looked good in the game before.
Okay. Well, maybe I should move Missouri up, but I'm going to keep them at 8.
I think, just based on what I've seen this year, I would maybe put Missouri above Arkansas.
I wonder what I believe about Kansas State in that win that Missouri got. That's their big win.
Yeah.
9, I'm putting Kentucky, which has no good wins.
But they may get a good win this weekend.
They might, but they don't have any. But they're at least undefeated.
They're undefeated. That counts for something.
10, I'm putting Tennessee.
Did you see? I think teams are rushing for over 220 yards on them or something like that. It's something ridiculous.
They're really not very good defensively.
And that's been a couple years,
Yes.
by the way.
And last year, again, they had a player that was taken in the 3rd round, Byron Young.
Yep.
And, all right, 11, I've got South Carolina, and Tennessee and South Carolina play this week. Another team's not really good defensively.
Who did I ask yesterday? Oh, SEC Mike. By the way, I'm going on his show later on, too. He thinks this is an eliminator game. Basically, your season's over. Whoever loses that game, season done.
Tennessee and South Carolina?
Yeah.
I know the Volunteers are going to be looking for some revenge from last year. Number 12, I have Mississippi State.
They're bad.
They're bad.
And they're about to lose again.
But you know what they did last week, their coach did? He, I guess they altered their offense somewhat and let Will Rogers throw.
Smart play.
Which, why did you have to get to this point to realize, hey, we got to tailor our offense to our best player? And then 13, I have Auburn. 14, I have Vanderbilt.
Yep.
I guess, Auburn's pretty good defensively, but I just cannot. And I don't mean to take credit away from A&M, but their offense is really bad.
When your offense is that bad, it's going to continue to put your defense in a bad position.
I go back to the one play when they had a chance to really do something against A&M, and the guy, A&M had a coverage bust, and that guy was on the, I guess you'd call it the west sideline,
Right.
open. I think it was fair, and he was open by 10 yards easy, maybe 15, and your quarterback missed him by 10 yards.
Right.
I just can't believe in Auburn.
Well, no. I mean, after what we saw, now what would be great, again, this is a show, so we can talk about different layers of things. Like we talk about, well, maybe Miami is really that good. You know what would be great? If Auburn's actually pretty good, which it's impossible based on that what I saw from that offense. Impossible that they're any good. Do they win an SEC game?
Yeah,
They
maybe.
will.
I don't know. Do they play Vanderbilt?
Let's take a look at their schedule, shall we?
And there's Mississippi State.
You know who they
can
have
win.
this weekend,
They
right?
got Georgia.
They got Georgia. Loss. Then they got LSU.
Loss.
Then they host Ole Miss. Not sure.
I would take Ole Miss.
Then they host Mississippi State.
Maybe, especially at home.
Then they go to Vandy.
There's a probable win.
Then they go to Arkansas.
Probable loss.
They host New Mexico State.
That's a win.
And they finish with Alabama.
I'm going to take Alabama in that game. I'm going to go out on that limb.
You're going to go out on that limb?
So I don't know what that gets them to based on. I guess I'm giving them three wins.
But you know what would be awesome?
What?
Like, would just be incredible, just for my soul, for their offense to look a little better against Georgia.
Hey, I'm rooting for them.
And maybe Georgia wins, but Georgia wins by like 10. That would make me feel good. Because I'm that kind of guy.
I find Auburn and their fan base and their population to be probably the least offensive.
Yeah.
In the SEC West. You know, if I had to rate the fan bases on how much I'm annoyed by them, I think Auburn would be last on that list.
So you had Missouri 8th, and maybe you would switch them up if you did it again. My thing is, it's very hard to do these without thinking about preseason narratives and also what you really think they're going to be when it's all said and done.
Right.
In the moment, though, they've been pretty good. I mean, I think Missouri, like, they got a quarterback that works. They got a coach that I think is very likable.
They have a heck of a receiver.
Yeah.
And, you know, if you're Missouri, you say, do whatever I can. They'll feed the studs thing. Do whatever you can to get the ball in Luther Burden's hands. I mean, I'd be running on jet sweeps. I'd do everything. If I have 60 plays in a game, Luther Burden's hands is going to be on the ball 20 times.
So I was thinking, well, maybe Memphis is pretty good. And that game with Missouri was close, 34-27, right? But then I went through their games, and they destroyed Arkansas State 37-3. Talking about Memphis. They destroyed BCU 56-14. Their game against Navy, it was actually a close game, 28-24. And wasn't Navy demolished by Notre Dame?
Yeah, Navy's not very good.
So
who knows?
Yeah, that's the thing though. Every team we've talked about in the SEC has had those games this year where you're like, I don't.
Right. So if you argue for Missouri to be ranked 6th, I don't have an issue with that. What I'm saying is, I think that somehow Arkansas's close loss at Arkansas had some questionable calls that went against them where they could have won that game. Their close loss at LSU actually impressed me more than Missouri beating Kansas State.
I can get down with that. All right, let's hit a break. When we come back on TexAgs Radio, we are going to go to your text messages at the Angry Elephant News and Social Center, post a little more college football stuff to get into. Obviously, that's what we do here in September. Right now, we're talking about Chance McClain and Heritage Films, yourheritagefilm.com. They make documentary films about your family. The Year Flicks, I made a mistake. I told you guys on the show yesterday, but I thought the Year Flicks was live on his website. And it's not live. Yearflix is this new product he's releasing soon. I don't know when, like November, I think, where he does these 20-minute videos, Q&A. He did a pilot with my daughter Annalise just to try it out, and it was awesome, and I've been talking about it ever since. And then I've been telling you guys, you got to jump on this Yearflix. It's awesome for your kids. And then I was on the phone with him the other day. He's like, no, we haven't even released that product yet. I was like, but I've been telling people. He's like, yeah, I'll do them. I've been doing them. It's fine. We haven't gone live with it. So I think you can kind of like do it now before it like gets crazy and, take advantage of it. So if you want a year flicks for your kid, like a 20-minute Q&A video, he'll do it for you. And it's not like, when I say 20-minute Q&A video, it's not like with your iPhone, you just put it there and ask a bunch of questions. No, this is like really edited, lit, awesome production behind it. And that's on top of the work he does with Heritage Films, which is these 2-hour documentaries. He does it all. Family business stories, family ranch stories, family stories, your dad, your uncle. I know yesterday he got somebody who listens to TexAgs radio who wants to do one on her 99-year-old mother, or grandmother, I should say. So there's these awesome stories that, like, while people are here, let's preserve their stories so that way the next generation and the generation after that get to tell that story and hear that story. YourHeritageFilm.com is the website, YourHeritageFilm.com, 713-894-8341, 713-893-8341. Hi, TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers here in the Rollo Insurance Studio. Van Halen, right?
Is that Panama?
Yeah.
Well,
But nobody can hear it on YouTube.
They always went into a lot of trouble with their lyrics. Really worked on them. Panama, Panama, ha 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 ha, Panama.
Yeah.
How long do you think it took you to write that?
That one probably took at least a couple hours.
Yeah, at least.
Well, what's the next lyric? I don't know.
I think the next thing is Panama.
Hey, we're TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers.
Have you ever been to Panama?
Panama City or Panama?
I've been to Panama City. I've never been to Panama.
I think I've been to Panama. I think went with my parents as a kid. I believe I did.
Man.
That sounds
I've
right.
been to Panama.
Panama City or Panama?
Panama.
Really?
Yeah, I got to see the
Canal.
Yeah. My uncle and aunt own a condo down there. So.
Hey, let's go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center where we find Kennedy Cavan. Kennedy Cavan. I don't know why I gave your last name twice.
That's okay.
You had some stuff to throw out at us.
Just, there's a lot of stuff going on the socials right now about a certain NFL star and a certain pop star. I just wanted to get specifically Olin Buchanan's thoughts on that.
Were you at the soccer game on Sunday?
I unfortunately was not at the
You're
soccer
not a
game
real
on Sunday.
Swiftie. I'm just sorry. You're
I
not.
know.
You're not real. It's fake.
I lacked.
You are fake. My daughter got the shirt. She's worn it to school twice.
I wonder if Nazareth High School is now putting pictures of Taylor Swift on their jerseys or helmets. Because they are, you know what their nickname is?
The Swifties?
The Swifts.
The Swifts, is that right?
Yes.
I'm going to be very honest with you, Cavs.
I think.
I understood why it's a story. I just don't think it needs to be on Sports Center all the time and everywhere else.
I agree.
People Magazine, fine. Lifetime Network, fine. Maybe one mention, but people just want the likes, the comments, the retweets, the attention. Look, we can get some old people to watch us or some young kids to watch what we're talking about. Enough already.
Yeah. Getting that ESPN notification about Taylor Swift, I was just like, I feel like this is something that doesn't necessarily belong on ESPN.
If Taylor Swift scored a touchdown, I'd be all in.
Like I said, I'm impressed with Travis Kelce if he scores a touchdown, not if he scores with Taylor Swift.
Man, I'd give him a high five for that. Cool. Way to go. But I'd move on. Like, it's not a topic.
I care about sports. I don't care about all this tabloid crap.
Hey,
I think y'all speak for a lot of the sport fan population when saying that.
I've got to ask you something, OB, and I didn't bring it up yesterday, and I'm sure I'll ask John Harris. I didn't see the game. What happened to the team with a star on their helmet?
Oh, they sucked.
Okay. How did they lose to Arizona?
Sometimes you got to actually show up to play.
Okay.
And it looked like they did not. Now, they had a whole bunch of guys out on the offense, but that doesn't explain how your defense looked terrible against a journeyman quarterback that's been, until now, a career backup. Mm-hmm. And you clearly didn't come ready to play because you have a terrible coach. And that's not anything new, right? We've been saying this for years.
Yeah.
The same way the Jaguars lost to the Texans. I mean, give the Texans credit. They owned that game. But the Texans was a team with injuries in the secondary, injuries in the offensive line on the road. On the road, and the Jaguars are supposed to be a playoff team, and the Texans dominated from kickoff to buzzer, right?
Good coach. I'm Team
I think
D'Amico.
so. I think
D'Amico
so.
Ryan, yep.
I mean, we'll find out, but I think so. So,
and by the way, C.J. Stroud looks pretty good.
I always thought that was a good pick for the Texans. So, through 17 games, you're going to have games that your team, whatever team it is, even the Chiefs or whatever, aren't going to show up, aren't going to be there. But it shouldn't come in the third week of the year.
Yeah.
But that's always been kind of a recurring issue for the Cowboys throughout their history. There's these games. It's one thing when you lose the games that are really good teams and, they just outplay you. But they have always had a tendency to have a game or two against a bad team, and they just don't show up.
So is it more of a defense? I'm looking at Dak's numbers. Dak's numbers seemed okay. 249 yards, a touchdown, a pick.
They
Tony
couldn't
Pollard.
score. They couldn't score in the red zone.
Yeah.
They kept getting field goals in the red zone.
Yeah.
Sound like anybody else?
Sounds familiar. Joshua Dobbs, 189 yards passing.
Look at his running numbers.
55 yards to go on with James Conner, 98 yards.
Yeah. I mean, James Conner, nice back out of Pitt, overcame cancer, all those things. A lot of things to admire about him. But, he's just an average NFL back. And you made him look great.
Yeah.
And I think the Cowboys defense is overrated. I think they have a really good pass rush, a great pass rush. But I think as their defense is never going to be good as long as Leighton Vander Esch is in the middle.
No music, so I think we have to go.
We're done.
Thank you, OB. That's to go. Our presented by the Warehouse at CC Creations. When we come back, Juan Haris next on TexAgs.
Oh, there he is. Good morning, Sunshine. You're muted. I can't hear you. You're muted. There you go.
That's sad. Can't believe I did that. What's up?
No. What's up, man? How you been?
Hey, welcome back in TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers here in the Rollo Insurance Studio. Let's go to footballtakeover.com's main guy, Texans sideline reporter, John Harris here on TexAgs Radio. What's up, Johnny?
What's up, David? Yeah, excuse my naivete. Was that some Taylor Swift? Was that an homage to Travis Kelce? What was that?
Well, we did spend a few minutes in the last segment talking about I don't need Taylor Swift updates on ESPN or any other sports outlets. You can. I mean, one mention was enough, and then we can move on. But it's been like everywhere, so we were just talking about that.
Yeah, I mean, you got to make sure. First of all, David, do not anger the Swifties. Whatever you do,
Johnny,
do not do it.
I love it.
Yeah, don't do it.
You know me.
Don't anger the Swifties. Yeah, you can't do that.
I don't care. Like she's good. For my daughter will kick me in the shin if I talk bad about her. She's really good. I just don't want to listen to her. That's fine. Like, I mean, she got some bangers.
I'm with you. I'm not the biggest Taylor Swift fan in the world, but whatever. I mean, it's the crossover is fine. I texted my daughter, who's out in Hollywood, actress, trying to break into the acting world, and I said, "Hey, did you see about Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift?" Her response back, "I can't say on the radio," but it was pretty good. She's like, "Why do I bleep and care?" I was like, "All right, okay, good.
Let's move on." Hey, what was different, like, from a coaching perspective, Johnny, from the Aggies' defense? I know they blitzed more. I think they ran more zone, but just kind of let us understand, like, when you're watching that Aggie defense, what stood out to you about the way they attacked Auburn?
Well, you just said it right there, David. It's that word. It's attack. I mean, there are just different ways you can play on defense. You can be a read and react defense. You can be a Wink Martindale defense. Wink Martindale is a defense coordinator for the Giants, and he is always thinking blitz. I think the other night, I can't remember the Giants. Oh, Brock Purdy. The Giants played Brock Purdy and the 49ers, and Wink Martindale blitzed him 84% of the time. Like, that's unheard of. It's absolutely unheard of to blitz somebody that much. But I felt like what DJ Durkin and defensive staff found was a very happy medium between being blitz happy and, hey, let's make sure we're continuing to play with technique, because it kind of felt like they found the balance of it. They were getting pressure with 3 and 4. The defensive line decided that it was going to dominate that game, as it should. I think that's the sign to me, David, that really kind of stood out. Was there have been times in the past where you feel like, okay, A&M has got more talent than that team, but somehow that team hangs around for whatever reason, or those guys aren't taking over a game that they should. I felt like the defense from play one to the end of the game was like, Auburn's got no shot here. Sorry, it's just not going to happen, because physically up front, they just took over the game. And step back, it's Auburn, but it wasn't Auburn like we've known Auburn to be. And I guess maybe we shouldn't say that too much, or shouldn't say that too much, because Auburn has had some bad offenses over the last how many years. That's not a great offense. But what I love about it is the fact that when you face an offense that's not very good, or on the other side, you face a defense that's not very good, you dominate it. And that's what the defense did. So I felt like up front, you kind of mixed and matched a little bit, but everybody up and down the defense line, the depth all came through. I mean, everybody on both sets of linemen, all linemen that came in there seemed like they did a great job. The linebackers were flowing to the ball very, very fast. Even when Ashford came in the game, I don't think that did anything for them. They just took away everything that Auburn could potentially do and made them no-dimensional. There was not even 2 dimensions. There was not even 1 dimension. They were no-dimensional, and that was good to see. I do think that Jimbo Fisher's tackling has got to improve, so they might get some help from him a little bit later. But I feel like the tackling overall was pretty good. Jimbo's just got to work on his this weekend.
Jimbo's got to work on his. How do you think they attack Arkansas this weekend? Do you think it's a similar approach defensively?
Kind of. I do think KJ Jefferson's a little bit different to prepare for because it's kind of like preparing for a heavy tailback, yet a really solid passer. I don't think KJ gets enough credit for being the type of passer that he is. I mean, against LSU, he was creating all game. So I think there are some ways you can go about that, using spies. Edrin's a good guy to spy against a guy like KJ Jefferson. But really, it's up front. If that 4-man rush, when they rush 4, it is truly important to envelop the pocket. And sometimes when you got your pass rush going, you got guys coming from different directions. You're running twists and stunts and loops and things. You may not do that as much because you're worried about the quarterback finding a seam because you got guys looping and all of a sudden one guy kind of gets knocked out of the gap and boy, that's a seam that KJ Jefferson's going to take off. But I feel like you have to envelop him in the pocket. The rush has to be closing in on him, kind of like the walls close in, in a cartoon, on our protagonist. The walls are closing in. What's the protagonist going to do? Well, in this case, KJ Jefferson is the antagonist, and you just got to envelop in the pocket because what he does, or what a lot of quarterbacks do, is once the rush starts to develop him, he looks at the rush. Now you got him. Because now he's looking for escape lanes. And if you got guys like Edrin Cooper that are spying on him, having eyes on him, you're I don't say you're better off. Now, LSU threw a lot of different looks at him, and he shot him down a lot of times. But I think that A&M overall, especially up front, is better than LSU in the front 7. So, or front 6, depending on if you're going to play nickel. But I think you have to have eyes on KJ Jefferson with at least one spy. But the rush has to be so disciplined. If you're bringing guys from depth, those guys have got to understand when they get there, and they might, it's a gnat hitting an elephant. You've got to bring him down. So I do think there might be a couple of different approaches that Durkin uses. I don't think any of them are wrong. But the biggest thing is to envelop him in the pocket, force him to look at the rush and not have eyes downfield. And then when you hit, you hang on. You grab shoelace, you grab shoe, you grab sock, you grab belt, anything you can to bring him to the ground. Because the last thing you want is, to be scot-free on a blitz or to come scot-free in the pass rush and you hit him and he's 6'5", 250 and you bounce off him and he creates after that. And the last thing with Arkansas, unlike last year, it was the flip last year. Arkansas had A&M down and Arkansas let A&M up and A&M did flip the script. I think A&M's got a great shot to get Arkansas down, but when they get them down, they got to step on the throat.
Well, one of the things that they have had some struggles with is turning those red zone opportunities into touchdowns. They've been really good in the red zone, but they do shoot themselves in the foot, Johnny. What outside of some penalties, what are you seeing offensively that's changing when they get close?
Well, I mean, David, it's just natural in the red zone. And it's funny because I go back to something that Bill O'Brien told us that Tom Brady told him. Tom Brady told him a long time ago, he said, I mastered a lot of things in football. The last thing that I became proficient at was in the red zone. And if you think about it, it makes sense. When you're out in the field of play, you have much more space and area to take advantage of. So you can hold the ball as a quarterback a half second longer. But once you get in that red zone, it's got to be now. It has to happen right now. And I'm not surprised that younger quarterbacks, guys that haven't started a whole year, Connor hasn't started a full year of games yet. Max has, started, but he hasn't played a ton. I'm not surprised that A&M is having some of the red zone struggles because things have to happen right now down the red zone. And teams can just drop 7 into coverage, and now you've got really tight windows. So, as a quarterback, you either have got to have the schnuts to say, I'm going to stick this ball right in here and trust my receivers, trust my tight end. And a lot of quarterbacks aren't ready to do that. They're just not quite totally where you want them to be. I think if you get more experience in these quarterbacks, I think you'll start to see a little bit more proficiency in the red zone. But I think also I wouldn't mind seeing them go to the tight end a little bit more in the red zone, whether it's Max or whether it's Johnson. Go to the tight end a little bit more in the red zone. But whatever you do down in the red zone, it's got to happen right now. And sometimes that ability to kind of quicken things up and stay proficient, they don't move together in the same realm. And you got to get them there. You got to hey, we're doing this out on the field, but sometimes there's a rhythm when you're out beyond the red zone. Then you get to the red zone. Sometimes teams get nervous. They get tight. Those windows close very quickly. Things have to happen right now in the red zone. You don't have to rush it, but you have to make quick decisions. And I think as time goes on, I feel like A&M will get better in the red zone. I'm not going to worry about that too much. But also, it goes back to Bobby. Okay, this hasn't been successful in the red zone. What have we been doing? Let's look at it. Maybe we use the backs a little bit more in the red zone. Maybe let's use the tight ends a little bit more. And then maybe you can free up some of that space because you hit them with the tight end. And all of a sudden, man, and underneath defenders now will focus on tight end, and now you can stick that slant. Or you can get that corner route or whatever the case might be. So I don't know, David, that there's any real secret to the red zone other than make your decision and throw it. When you're running the football, obviously you want to get as much space. I mean, run the football down there is run the football, but especially throwing the football, you have to make your decision right freaking now, or you're not going to get the ball off into a good spot.
Talking to John Harris here on TexAgs Radio, footballtakeover.com, and go check him out. 2 questions for you, Johnny. How did the play calling change with Max at the helm, and how do you think it changes if he is indeed the quarterback for the next few weeks?
I don't know that too much changes, to be honest with you, David. I mean, I think a lot of what they do with Connor, they can do with Max. Now, the obvious one, as crazy as this sounds, and sometimes this doesn't matter for some guys, but sometimes it matters for a lot of guys. One's right-handed, one's left. So that can play a role. I remember Michael Vick a long time ago when he was at Virginia Tech. His offense coordinator, Ricky Bussell, had a wristband for the backup, who was right-handed, and he had a wristband for Vic, who was left-handed. And there was a game in which Vic grabbed the wrong wristband and put it on. So Bussell kept calling these plays, and so finally Vic got over to the sideline. He's like, Coach, why are you calling these plays to the right? And he looked down and he goes, we got the wrong wristband, Mike. So that's one thing. And that can somehow then sometimes change just that alone, David. But I don't think, generally speaking, that they'll change a lot of what they're doing. I'll just be really curious to see if Max throws to his brother more. Does he throw to his brother? And his brother's damn good. So I've got no problem with that if he throws to him, a little nepotism. But he's just got to keep doing what Connor was doing. Connor was getting the ball to his weapons, all of them. He was spreading the wealth. Hopefully Noah and thoughts and prayers out to Noah and his family. But hopefully Noah gets back before too long. And I know that's got to be a hard situation. But it's not as if with Noah out, A&M's going, who do we throw the ball to? No, they've got a lot of weapons. The other thing I think Max will do probably a little bit more than Connor does, just quarterback difference. I think Max is willing to take a little bit more profit and throw the backs out of the backfield, take some of his checkdowns before Connor. I feel like Connor is going to hold it a little bit longer to try and get a little bit bigger piece of the pie, which is okay as long as you're able to get that ball off. But I think the biggest thing is, just one being left-handed. You may do, if you're going to have movement, it might be to the left. So that might mean you're pulling Layden Robinson to run some trap protection versus pulling the other guard. So there might be some of those things because of just the change of right and left. But I think for the most part, they'll run the same thing. But I think Max will check it down and take some profit maybe when Connor wants a little bit bigger piece. I don't have a problem with that as long as Max isn't turning down throws that are open. I don't think Connor does that. Connor's willing to give it a rip. So I think that could be the only difference. But I don't expect too much, David. I do expect that the run game will get a little bit more action. And when I say run game, I mean that can mean the backs catching the ball out of the backfield too. So I'd like to see him get Ruben involved in the passing game a little bit more. I just like to see Owens get the ball. But I think what they've got is a good mix at running back. But I think they might get that running game going against Arkansas a little bit more.
Johnny, is anybody playing championship level football in the SEC in your opinion?
No, not really. I mean, I think there are teams that I look at and go, man, I don't know if I want to face that team right now. Like LSU, I wouldn't want to face that LSU offense. But, I'll go all day against this defense. That defense just hasn't developed sort of like I thought it would. Georgia's Georgia, but Georgia's schedule is so soft. I mean, there's nothing on Georgia's schedule right now. Florida's playing better, so when Florida plays Georgia in the cocktail party in Jacksonville, Florida's going to rise up and play hard. But I just don't. I mean, I think they're a water pistol compared to what Georgia is. But I just don't. I mean, Alabama obviously is not what Alabama is, and I think A&M has got a great opportunity with all conference games ahead. But as well as I do, David, there have been times against Arkansas where they haven't played extremely well, and walked out of there feeling like, wait, how did this happen to us? Even in wins where you felt like, oh man, they were a big favorite. You walk out of there going, man, we got the win, but how did it go to overtime? I think this Arkansas team, you know what you're going to get. They're going to come in and pound. KJ Jefferson is going to, create a ton of plays. But I do think you can move the ball on their defense. I don't think their defense is very good. I think A&M is that much better, is a touchdown better than Arkansas for sure, but you got to go play like it and take it right to them and then put the foot on the throat and cut that off.
Talking to John Harris here on TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. By the way, Billy Lucci will be calling the show at 9:35, so just appointment listening on stuff happening across the street. All right, Johnny, let's talk to the Texans for a moment, because C.J. Stroud, man, delivering it. That offense delivering, going on the road against Jacksonville. You were there for it. Talk to me about what you saw.
Well, it's fun, finally. I mean, I had to remind myself that we won the game on Monday. I was telling Dalton, I had to remind myself, we won. Now we've beaten Jacksonville a lot, but that was supposed to be a different Jacksonville team. We were a 10-point underdog going in there and beat them by 20. So C.J. Stroud has been good. And you know this, David, because I've been on with you. When conversations at quarterback came up, everybody's like, oh, man, we beat the Colts that game. We're not going to get Bryce. And I kept saying, it's all right. C.J.'s damn good, man. He's really good. You guys are really going to like him. And he's come here and he's made a significant impact. Will Anderson Jr. has made a significant impact. Tank Dell has made a significant impact. And it's all been really fun to watch these rookies really rise up. But they're getting good play out of other players as well. Guys that have come, Jimmy Ward came here and there was a lot expected of him. He's a captain, missed the first 2 games because of injury. And he got back on the field and, man, he threw his weight around. He was physical. It was just the way they played the game. And I kept thinking as that game was going on, man, if CJ's doing this behind this offensive line that's got 4 backups basically, what's going to happen if and when Laramie's healthy and Titus is healthy and Juice Scruggs is healthy? What's he going to do behind that line? And what happens if they get the run game going? Holy cow. This could get kind of fun. But reality is going to hit you in the face on Sunday, because the Pittsburgh Steelers, they love to come in and take your lunch money. And we all know that. And playing them is not the easiest thing in the world. So, it's all fun and games beating Jacksonville. In Jacksonville, we've done that every year since 2018. But now it's TJ Watt and the boys. That's going to be rough. So got to gear up for that. But to know that we have a guy that this city trusts, that this team trusts, this organization trusts and believes in, is really, really cool to see.
Last thing for you, buddy. I don't know if you were able to catch up with the Cowboys game. What happened to them? Olin just said they sucked. So
yeah, well, that's probably a good way of putting it. I didn't get a chance to see too much of it, but one thing I did read and see was the Cardinals' defensive staff threw a really good game plan. Now, I haven't seen the game, but it sounded as if the Cardinals did some things the Cowboys didn't seem to be ready for. There were some unblocked guys making plays. And look, David, sometimes in the NFL, there are games that sort of defy description. And, for the Texans back in 2019, we beat the Patriots on a Sunday night. And we just hadn't beaten the Patriots in forever. We beat them on a Sunday night. We got a game the next Sunday against the 3-10 Denver Broncos. And they're beating us 38-3 in the second half. And it's like, what? How does that happen? You see some of those weird things in the NFL, and I feel like that game with the Cowboys, we were kind of following it as we were, on the plane and such. Like, what the hell happened? Those games kind of happen. Kind of like the Broncos getting beat by the Dolphins. And Devon going for 228 or whatever he did. And how I felt about that. Devon going to Miami, I thought, man, that's going to get really scary. Well, Sunday was the embodiment of that. But I think the Dolphins can score 70 a lot of the time, to be honest. The Cardinals beating the Cowboys happens once out of 10 times. It just happened on that Sunday. So I can't say I hate it, but the Cardinals are screwing up the script, man. The Cardinals are screwing up. The Cardinals were supposed to be, catering for or cratering for Caleb. I mean, they were supposed to be dying, and yet they could easily be 3-0. So, congrats to them for getting the win, but can't say I hate seeing the Cowboys lose, to be honest. Sorry, guys.
Johnny, buddy, appreciate you. What's on footballtakeover.com?
Man, I got my keys to the game coming. I got Duke Notre Dame going up there. Last week I had Florida State Clemson. I had Florida State winning by 6. I broke it all down. A couple of my key players made huge plays. So if you want to read the script beforehand, come on over to Football Takeover. I got all my score predictions, keys to the game. My YouTube page has got breakdowns, which a lot of people have been to. So I appreciate all the TexAgs that have gone over there and subscribed. I really appreciate y'all, man. David, I appreciate you having me on every week, man. Thank you, brother.
Thank you, man. Hugs. Talk to you soon.
All right, bud.
Later, bro. John Harris, footballtakeover.com. All right, let's hit a break. As I mentioned, Billy will be calling the show around 9:35, so we'll chat with Billy about stuff. But before that, we'll have Coach G here in studio. They lost a heartbreaker this past weekend. They've got the Turn It Gold coming up, Turn It Gold game coming up this weekend. They're trying to turn their season into gold. Right now, that's called a cheesy tease that I taught Kate how to do earlier. Right now, we're talking about the premier pumpkin festival of the Brazos Valley is almost here. Pumpkin once. Pumpkin Palooza is back for its 11th year. Head out to Milliken Reserve on October 14th and 15th for Pumpkin Palooza weekend. A cool fall breeze, the smell of delicious local eats, and of course, flying pumpkins will fill the festival air. On top of pumpkin-filled activities, we'll have outdoor adventures and festival classics as well. They'll have everything from pumpkin chunkin' to the Great Pumpkin Games to fishing and face painting. Visit pumpkinpaloozabcs.com for more details. A couple of the things that you can look forward to. Pumpkin Palooza Festival, October 14th and 15th, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Pumpkin Palooza Trail Run on the 14th at 7 a.m. Remember, visit the website, pumpkinpaloozabcs.com to learn more and purchase your Pumpkin Palooza tickets. Go get it. They recommend you getting those tickets online to avoid the lines at the gate and get the best price. Again, it is pumpkinpaloozabcs.com. Time to turn it gold here on TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Coach G is in studio. G, I'd ask you how you're doing. I know you didn't love the way Sunday played out. None of us did. Just how disheartening was that? Because, as I told you at the break, you guys were, like, for sure the better team on that night for 90% of that game.
Yeah, well, it's, we got soccered on that one. Not suckered, but soccered because and even Arkansas kind of admitted the same thing because we knew that this was going to be a tough week because we're going to play the two most physical teams in the league. Texas A&M, we are well known as a finesse skill team. We play with rhythm. We try to make the game as beautiful as we can. And here we are playing a team that refers to themselves as pigs, and they like to ugly it up a little bit. Yeah. So we talked about for our team that both these games at Mississippi State on Thursday and especially on Sunday, we were going to have to be comfortable in being uncomfortable. And I was so proud of our players because, in both games, they did what they had to do, what the Aggies had to do to get the results. Thursday, we go on the road to Starkville. We are kind of up against it in the first half, make some adjustments to our shape. In the second half, Phil Stevenson made some great changes to that. And we turn the game. Eventually, they get a red card. That really changed the game as far as what we were able to do. We get the winning goal with 7 minutes to play. The team is very smart in the way we close that match out. We get a huge road win. We come home. We play the team that just smashed the number 5 team in the country 5-0. Arkansas beat Alabama, and then we thoroughly outplay Arkansas off the park in the first half. Outshoot them 8-1, and really probably should be up 3 or 4-0 at halftime, but we're not. Mm-hmm. And and still, even in the second half, we dodge a lot of corner kicks and throw-ins, things that they do. We create a lot more chances, and there's a statistic called XG, which is expected goals, and typically Arkansas, just dominate that statistic because they put the ball in the other team's penalty area so often. Well, in this particular game, Texas A&M's XG was 2.36. Arkansas was 0.57. But Arkansas wins 1-0 on a shot that goes through a crowd between one of our players and our goalkeeper in a space that's minute. And we hit the post 3 times. We missed some sitters, and like I said, we got soccered. And our players, the good thing about it is our players know we can beat anybody. We can beat ourselves too because we kind of beat ourselves on Sunday night. So. You've got to kind of get out of our own head on that and not get so frustrated in it. There's a lot of analogies you can use. You can use baseball analogies of hitting line drives right at shortstops and second baseman and know that you can hit any pitcher in the league. Golf analogies of putting the ball on the green and just missing your 2-foot putts. But we're playing really well. We know we can beat anybody, literally anybody in the country right now. We've just got to follow through and get it down. We've got 7 games to go. All 7 games are beneficial games. They're all games of teams. 6 of the 7 are teams with RPI ahead of us that we know we can, like Arkansas just moved up to number 5 in the country. All right, well, we just played them off the park, just like we've played
Florida State,
pretty much everyone in the country off the park. So let's regroup this Friday night. It's a big night. You have our Turn It Gold jersey that we have here. Let's put it together on Friday night against Ole Miss, who again is ranked ahead of us, tied with us in the league. Let's put it together there. We need a big crowd on Friday night to help these players out. But I mean, we're playing really well. Get the crowd behind us. Get the crowd behind these girls. Turn It Gold is we're allowed to have one night of charity. And we've been doing this now for 10 years. Baseball now has come on board with the same event that they do in the spring. Gold is the official color for childhood cancer, juvenile cancer awareness. Too many kids, almost 90,000 kids a year, die from different types of juvenile cancer. The Turn It Gold Foundation was started by 2 Aggie moms in Houston, just incredible people. and we've partnered with them for now 10 years. They've raised literally millions of dollars. No money goes into overhead and bureaucratic costs. That is just a waste of money. Everything that these women do goes to helping research to end these terrible diseases that kill kids. And so we want to do what we can. So the jersey that you see here on the screen, we're going to be selling these at Ellis Field. These are replica jerseys. These are $15 that you can buy at the stadium. They're just like the jerseys that the players are going to be wearing. If you want to buy one of the Adidas jerseys that the players are going to be wearing, one of the actual game-worn jerseys, those are going to be for auction. They're for auction already at 12thman.com/turnitgold. You can start to bid for those right now. We're also going to be selling scarves, gold scarves, for $10 at the game. All of those sell out, and these are really cool jerseys. So all of the money for that goes every year. We usually raise over $25,000 just with women's soccer every single year. It's a great cause. It's something that we believe in, and again, it's something that our girls are fully committed to. And it's pretty kind of cool that we get to do the special uniforms. We did the 30th anniversary uniforms. What did you think of the All Blacks?
I love the All Blacks. I wanted to tell you that. That look was sharp.
Yeah, those are for sale as well.
Okay.
If you go to Maroon U here, right, that CC Creations does. I think those are for sale. The actual Adidas jerseys for this. But seriously, buy these jerseys because these jerseys go for a really great cause. 12thman.com/turnitgold.
I want to ask you about the health of the team where you are, and then I assume it's a good thing having one game this week. Let some bodies kind of repair.
Yeah, so we're without Kate Colvin and without CC Calzado, who's our fastest defender. Even that said, I mean, our defense was spectacular on the weekend. We played Grace McMillan in goal both games. I think people were a little surprised that Kenna Caldwell wasn't in. Kenna has been playing great all season long. Grace, these were really good games that were good matchups for Grace to play. Grace is a grad transfer, All-American, came in in the summer for us, and Grace had two really, really good games. So, we've got really good competition on the team for our positions. Our grad transfers have played really well with Jazz Wilkinson and Sammy Smith, who got the winning goal against Mississippi State. So Calzada hopefully will be back soon. Kate Colvin comes back into training today for the first time in a while, and she's played basically has only been able to play in about 4 games. She has 3 goals this year, so we are welcoming her back with open arms today.
Awesome. And then last thing for you, how do you expect to respond this weekend and moving on?
Well, again, I think that the team knows. It's like and I fully expect them to step up. We know that we've got everything in front of us. We have everything that we can do, and you know yourself. I think the shapes that we've been playing in, we've been able to adjust to from game to game, and they've been able to do it. And I'm pleased with how the coaching staff has adjusted as well. We've got a great group, great chemistry within the group, and just a matter now of the law of averages have got to turn around for us.
Yeah.
We've had some hard luck, and it's time to turn it all around.
Gee, good luck. I won't be there Friday. I'll be traveling with the Ags football team, but I will be back, and hope you guys come away with a win.
Appreciate it. 7 o'clock, Turn It Gold, 12thman.com /turnitgold, and really need folks out there. Going to be a big game. Come and support the Ags, and then you can head on up to Arlington for that morning kickoff.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate
Thanks,
you.
brother. Appreciate it.
All right, when we come back, Billy Lucci call on the show. We'll talk a little bit, an update on Connor Wakeman, that and more. TexAgs Radio. We are back, TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers here in the Rollo Insurance Studio. Let's go straight to the hotline where we're going to be joined by Billy Lucci with an update on Connor Wigman. I know you posted on the boards, Billy. I'll let you kind of just tell us what you've learned here over the last couple of 24 hours or so. What's the latest with Connor?
Well, over the last couple of days here. So, well, the latest is I've been told three and a half months on a return, and obviously that is going to take you past the end of the season-ending injury for number 15. Really unfortunate for Connor, first and foremost. That's something I absolutely want to put out there because I've seen the response already on the message board, but I want everyone just take a second and think of a young quarterback playing as well as he was, living up to the 5-star hype, being out there. The kid loves football, loves competing. He loves it so much. He gave up baseball to do it. And you chase that dream and it's kind of all starting to come together and fall into place. Take one hit, probably think you've sprained an ankle, done something, you limp off the field, and then come to find out that's going to be the last time you take the field this season. You don't get to play it out there with your teammates. You got to sit there and watch. That's a tough blow for any competitor, but just knowing Connor, the way I've gotten to know him since he's gotten here, I just really sucks for him. And so before I think everyone starts, going down every rabbit hole of QB injuries and what does it mean, I think the first thing you do is you think about Connor, kind of go to Twitter, wish him well, do whatever, let him know the Aggies are behind him. But then secondly, think about Max Johnson in that reaction too, because, fortunately, A&M had the best QB1, QB2 situation in the conference, which I've said many times during the offseason. And they've got a guy that's started a lot of games in this league. He's mature. He's a veteran. And I'm sure Connor will be right there beside him in every meeting and there to greet him on the sideline in games, because you have that type situation for a reason. Injuries at that position are far too common in this league, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But I think first and foremost, you think of Wiggy and then Max when you're trying to react to this thing. But terrible, worst case scenario in terms of, well, I take that back. It's not the worst case scenario in terms of an injury, but in terms of for this season, it certainly is. It shouldn't be a longer lasting thing for Connor, but that is the toughest of breaks to lose QB1 for any team, even a team with an outstanding backup like Max. So basically, David, I've also seen people complaining about Jimbo and his comment on Monday. Those people, I guess, don't really understand the process, and it's why he probably didn't want to go into too much detail, because they're doing further, so this injury happened Saturday, and I'm not a doctor, so I don't know the extent of what testing is done, but I know there was at least an x-ray on Saturday. And I've talked to a lot of sources on this that are coming from close to the situation, not from within A&M, and sounded like there was the initial feedback was positive, but it was going to be a lengthy absence, because you had, in any kind of sprain down there, or whatever what was thought to be at the time, you've got ligament stuff, which is going to be long lasting, several weeks at a minimum for that type of injury. So the whole hope that he would be back in short order seemed pretty far-fetched. But you just never know, 20-year-old, how quickly they're going to heal versus others. But then the second part of that was, you've got to do further testing when some of that swelling goes down and stuff. So they weren't out of the woods until, and I believe it was around Monday afternoon after the presser, I started hearing, well, it's not quite that simple. Had there been a broken bone in that foot there's a little break in there to a certain degree, he probably could have withstood it, or those ligaments would have taken longer to heal anyway. But now, I think, then you have to go test further again. I don't know if that's MRI or CAT scan or whatever the most extensive you could do after that. And I think that was probably yesterday based on the timeline of all this stuff kind of making the rounds. And you know, and there were tons of Aggies talking about it. The Wigmans have a lot of great friends that are Aggies. And so, you know, I'm getting DMs. Bronny got a DM from somebody through baseball, not, you know, through 12 type channels, parents of people he's coached or whatever. You know, they're in a close knit community. So it wasn't like they were sitting there trying to keep everything top secret. And it started getting to the various A&M message boards, including TexAgs. So that broken bone in the foot. Now, what I haven't confirmed, and I'd like to, will be whether or not Connor's going to need surgery. That would probably be to put a screw in there, and that might be that sets it back, kind of where there's just not a chance of a return in time. Had it just been maybe a small break somewhere like non-weight bearing, that's going to heal before the ligament stuff does anyway. But I think it was my understanding that he was having a really tough time putting weight on that foot, and you're just not going to be able to play football and have any kind of quick recovery from that, whether you have to have surgery on it or not. So just a really tough break, literally, for him and for this football team. But yeah, it's rough and tumble in this league, man. It really is.
Billy, so much to unpack, and I don't even know where I want to start or where to go next, but let's just talk about this season and what it means with Max moving forward, where your confidence level is that A&M can have a similar season that you had in mind here weeks ago when we thought Connor was going to be there for the long haul.
Well, first of all, can we come back to that?
Yeah.
Can we close with that one, because that feels like the close?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I wanted to say this too. First of all, now they're one hit, sprain, twist of Max Johnson being in a really bad situation. And, you know, you've got a true freshman, Marcel Reed, who's promising. He's also a true freshman that's never taken a meaningful game snap in college. And then you've got Henderson from Fresno State, who's played some. It's great to have four, but you know, they had two proven. Now you have one proven. You have one with any experience at all at this level. They're in a precarious situation now. It was bad enough when you thought they'd be in a precarious situation for weeks. Now you're in a precarious situation for the remainder of the season. It's unbelievable how often this has happened to A&M. It's the SEC, man. You know, like I go back and you look at Texas last year. They go play Alabama, and Quinn Ewers looks great and can't make it through the first half without being lost for several weeks. You look at, you know, Bryce Young last year. He gets hurt and misses A&M game and is hurt for several games. But you can go through this league year after year, time after time, and it's not just the Aggies. There's so many football teams that you play. You know, I remember. I mean, I can't count all the times Texas A&M has played backup quarterback since joining this conference. But for A&M, it certainly seems wild to say this, but I don't think they've finished a season with the same starting quarterback that they started one with. Regular season, Trevor Knight came back for a bowl game. So did Nick Starkel. I don't think that they've started a regular season and finished with the same quarterback, save the Kellen Mond era. And it makes you appreciate his durability because he started 3.5 years and was never hurt. But outside of that, since Johnny, you know, you went Kenny Hill, Kyle Allen in 14. In 15, it was Kyle Allen. Kyler Murray took over. He gets hurt in his second start. Kyle Allen comes back. Then you had Trevor Knight, took him to the number 4 in the playoff ranking. He's lost for the season against Mississippi State. Comes back for a bowl game, but he was knocked out and done. The following year, it's Nick Starkel. Game 1 against UCLA, literally first game. You play a true freshman in Kellen Mond. He never gets hurt again. Kellen, again, pretty remarkable when you start to put it this way. And you come back in 2020, and down goes 20, and down goes Haynes King. Or 21, Haynes King goes down in game 2, second game of the season. Zach Calzado, who was also lost to the point that twice you had to put a walk-on in at quarterback against Auburn and Alabama, 2 SEC games. You put a walk-on on the field, and then this past season, you went from Haynes lost his spot to Max. 2 games later, Max breaks his hand. He's done for the year, and then later in that season, Haynes was essentially lost for the year with that foot injury against Florida. So it's and now Connor. So it's crazy. I heard someone say, "Oh, it's, the O-line." No, it's I think Connor was certainly hit on a play where blitz was not picked up, but it's the whole deal, man. It's over multiple coaches over a 10-year period in this conference, and it's just tough to do it. It just highlights the reason why quarterback recruiting is so damn important, and the coaches who can work the portal the way it needs to be worked, whether that means to get a starting quarterback, whether that means to get a QB backup, or whether that means in some instances to get a third string quarterback and manage to do that without upsetting the starter, the backup, either of their camps, any of their agents, it's a wild game that you're playing right now when it comes to QB recruiting, but it is the stuff that it can save jobs and it can save seasons. And thank God they've got Max Johnson. I will say that. And that is we said before, he's the best backup quarterback in the SEC. I don't think there was any question about that. Maybe Nussmeier at LSU would have a case, but outside of that, I mean, this guy's the best backup QB. He's most proven without question, and he'd probably start for half the teams in this league, I bet, if you went through team by team at this point.
Billy, we have to hit a break here. Can we come back with that final question about the rest of the season in the short segment?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't have to be as short or as long as you want. We can come back top of the. I don't care.
Okay.
I mean, this is pretty topical. It's pretty.
Let's keep it going then. We can push everything back. We'll come back with more with Billy Lucci here on TexAgs Radio. All right, we're back. TexAgs Radio presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. So we will get more Billy at the top of the 10 o'clock. We barely have time for him to answer a question. So we'll go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. Kennedy Cavan's got some early responses.
From William in Texas, he is basically just saying that the O-line is unacceptable, and especially with the talent on that squad, change must come at that coaching position.
I kind of expected those kind of responses because of where we are. What else, Cavs?
It's a lot of calling for changing at the coaching position. There's really not much other than that.
All right. Obviously, very sad for Connor, and hoping for great things in recovery for him to him lead this team next year. Also, a lot of support for Max. He stayed. He can sling it. A lot of things are still very possible with this team. We'll get into what that means long-term with Billy here in the next hour. Of course, we'll continue to go over your text messages.
I was about to say, was that post-game on Saturday that Max said, never thought about transferring, this is where I want to be?
Yep.
Do those comments ring even better now than they did then?
And they absolutely do. You know what, Max? Just go win 10 games. Just go win 10 games, baby. All right, we've got a lot to get into here over the next hour. We're going to push back recruiting country. We'll do a lot more with Billy. Connor Wegman done for the year. Unfortunate. He will be out at least 3.5 months. We'll reset that at the top of the hour. We'll follow up with Billy. We'll get into your calls. Hey there, TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers here in the Rollo Insurance Studio. Okay, so we're working on getting Billy on the program here. He was just here a moment ago. We'll do one segment of Recruiting Country here, presented by Caprock Health System. In the next segment, I believe, is some moving parts. Billy's taking calls, doing what Billy does, trying to get some more information for us, obviously. So we'll keep it with him here in a moment. Reacting to the breaking news that I think many of us feared was possible. Didn't think it was really going to happen, but now it's official. Connor Wigman done for the year. Unfortunate news for Connor. He is done for the year. And if you want to react to it, obviously I see a lot of responses. Nobody handling it well. But, again, there's a reason that you have Max Johnston here. And Max is absolutely very capable of doing what he can do. In fact, I'm looking at a message here on the message boards, I should say, a post on the message boards that Max has thrown for 42 touchdowns and 7 interceptions in his career. So he protects the ball, can throw long touchdowns. We'll go back to the hotline. We are joined by Billy Lucci here on TexAgs. Billy, we left it last segment, but I guess we can reset it. Connor is done for the year. 3.5 months is what it looks like the recovery is, and this news wasn't that the coaching staff was trying to keep information for us, but when the swelling went down, I think, and other imaging allowed us to see a different perspective of the injury.
I mean, I'm sure Jimbo would love to have said, hey, let's push the press conference back so I could better answer these questions. But I don't think they really thought it was going to be as significant. That's always a possibility with these things. But, the initial returns were promising. It's just like everyone that's ever had any kind of medical stuff done, whether it's an injury or, things more serious in life, there's, the initial look. And then if there's something that's, shows up that's a concern, you do a follow-up. And I don't know. There are doctors on our board that I actually read a couple guys that were talking about it, knowing what I knew yesterday. And they didn't know that it was necessarily true about that particular bone being broken in the foot. Or, I call it foot. It's basically a foot, ankle, whatever you want to call it, but it's foot technically. But I was reading what they were saying going, yeah, they're spot on. They just don't know that that's really what happened yet. But these doctors know what they were talking about on the guys on TexAgs in terms of, well, if it's particular bone in the foot, it's that. And then obviously if it requires like a screw to be put in there in surgery, then it extends it out even further. But I think even on the low end, on that weight-bearing bone, and I watched him walk off the field, and that's why you watch enough football, you don't have to be a damn doctor to know that wasn't going to be a short-term injury. I thought at best, I was hoping, well, maybe he can be back for South Carolina, because I think it was originally what I thought from just watching football for 25 years, seeing quarterbacks and seeing types of injuries, and hell, just looking at the A&M injuries over the years. I can compare to you how unfortunately, how Connor walked off the field versus Haynes King versus Nick Starkel. And I can tell you, Haynes was definitely looked like the worst. And it's just, when you see that, and I was hopeful, especially after hearing the initial, maybe he could be back for South Carolina. That was going to be 5 full weeks from Auburn to the South Carolina game. Even then you start going, yeah, but you've got to practice in 4 weeks to be able to play in 5. So even then it probably was a little optimistic. And then you start hearing, okay, they saw this, they need to go with an extra round of tests, and the swelling starts to go down. I'm sure that makes the imaging a little more revealing. And they found out what they didn't want to see. That's for sure, for Connor and Jimbo and Petrino and the team.
Talking to Billy Lucci here on TexAgs. So earlier we were talking, what does this mean for this particular season? How far can this team go with Max Johnston? And obviously I know we're an injury away from being on number 3 and 4 quarterback. I understand that, but just for where we are right now.
Well, and let me say this about an injury away from where it's just going to be tough to go out and win SEC games. Let's be honest. Okay. Yes. Accurate. True. Nightmare scenario to lose, a rising star and one of the most experienced quarterbacks, backup or starter in the entire league, regardless of backup or starter, in Max Johnson. There's also the world where Max stays healthy and A&M has a damn good quarterback for the rest of the season. But let's talk like this. Let's look at the teams A&M plays in this league. What happens if Mississippi State were to lose Will Rogers? What happens if Arkansas in the first quarter were to lose KJ Jefferson? What happens if Bama loses Milroe? Because we saw what those other guys look like. What happens if South Carolina loses Spencer Rattler? I'm going to tell you right now, not one of those things I mentioned, those 4 teams in the SEC, would beat a Max Johnson-led Texas A&M. So it cuts both ways if you want to sit here and kind of speculate and play that game. Now, Ole Miss would have Spencer Sanders, and LSU would probably be in the best position because they over there in Baton Rouge, they love Nussmeier.
Billy, can I interject though? Yes,
yeah,
1,000%. But unfortunately for us, we have a propensity for seeing it happen often. There's a track record here.
That's not unfortunate for us. That's just, that's just for the mood and stuff. But just the reality is Max Johnson and every one of those quarterbacks I mentioned are one play away from getting injured. That's just the reality. And I mean, it is what it is. So they're going to go into battle with a guy. And their guy, like I said a minute ago, would start at probably half the schools in this league right now. So, I mean, you can't play that game of worrying about it, because if you don't think the A&M D-line or Edgerrin Cooper or somebody or I mean, I'm not wishing season-ending injuries on a guy. I'm just saying, suppose any of those guys we said were to roll an ankle, that team's losing to Texas A&M on that day. It's just, I mean, so yeah, all those schools are in a situation now where without the starter, they're in trouble. With A&M without the backup, they're in trouble. The difference is this: after Max, A&M's got, they're in a very tough situation. That's not a knock on Henderson or Reed. It's just the reality of experience in this conference and what a lack of it will do to you at the position. So I'll say the same thing for Tennessee with Joe Milton, and they've got a 5-star number 1 or 2 in the nation quarterback there. Well, guess what? He hadn't taken a meaningful snap of college football. So it's the same thing if A&M goes in there and Joe Milton rolls an ankle. I'm taking Max Johnson over a 5-star true freshman that hasn't played any day of the week. But A&M's hanging on by a thread at the position, there's no doubt. But what were you saying about Max?
Well,
in the last segment.
Just long term, I mean, this is a guy you can still accomplish most of what you set out to do this year at quarterback.
Listen, you're absolutely right, and they knew that prior to the season. They knew that during fall camp. They knew that in the spring. They knew how important it was, and like Max said, he never thought about transferring, but that was certainly something. If you're running a proper program, that's probably was your biggest fear, concern, all of that during that offseason was you couldn't lose either one of those guys to transfer to the portal. It would have been quite literally the worst case scenario. And credit them for going out to Fresno State and getting a quarterback with some experience to be QB3, who's now, QB2. But I mean, Max Johnson was one of the most important keeps of, when you're talking about portal, this guy left, that guy left. I always said it was about the guys you kept. But we're really talking about guys like, Walter Nolan, Shamar Stewart, LT Overton, Bryce Anderson, all these guys from that recruiting class, Dewberry, Naboo, that were so highly regarded, Le'Veon Moss, Evan Stewart. What no one talked about was the importance of Max Johnson not going. And again, to his credit and in fairness, he said he never even thought about it. but it's still that possibility exists when a guy doesn't get named, QB1. So they've got they had a great backup, and now they've got a starting quarterback that I'm thinking about the SEC, David, and who in this conference has started as many league games as him? Probably Jaden Daniels by now, perhaps, maybe. I don't know, though. Probably not. But Jaden Daniels would be up there. Who else in terms of SEC starts?
Will Rogers.
Will Rogers probably is definitely one. Beyond that, KJ Jefferson would probably be 2.
Yep.
I'm not sure Max wouldn't be 3. And I'm sure I'm forgetting someone we don't, as live radio, somebody in the back can be looking it up and fact check me. I'm sure Dalton can figure that out real quick. But the point is the point, whether he's 3 or 4, your starting quarterback is now one of the most experienced signal callers in this league. And here's the thing. Experience is great. It doesn't move the needle with me as much as production. And we've talked about Max. Like, he's beaten Auburn. Now he's beaten them twice, technically. He's beaten Florida. He's gone in the swamp in the shoe throwing game in 2020 when Florida was sitting there ready for a playoff spot. He beat them. He lost a final possession game in Tuscaloosa, where he's been there in that atmosphere, in that environment. He has beaten Arkansas at Jerry World last year. He beat Miami at Kyle Field. He beat Ole Miss, where he threw for like 350 plus yards in a game. So he's gone into Starkville and won. Man, this is exactly what you want when something like this happens, to be able to turn to the next guy and it be Max freaking Johnson. So that is and we've already kind of gone through this conversation because we knew it wasn't going to be an immediate return for Wiggy. So we've kind of already talked about this, but now it becomes that much more real. But they got to figure out, look, I've heard people complain and say, oh, it's the O-line. It's the O-line. That's why. On the particular play, yeah, it was. It was a complete whiff of a blitzer and a block. But this thing goes way deeper through the SEC and through A&M's recent history. It's not under one coaching staff. It's not one quarterback. It's a bunch of different O-lines. There's been good O-lines it's happened to. We've had injuries to quarterbacks running down the field. We've had injuries to them sitting in the pocket. We've had, hands on helmets, freak injuries. You've had, a million different things. And then that doesn't even count the fact that across this league, every year, you're going to see some degree of carnage at the QB position. You name a team, LSU fans will tell you part of the reason they lost to A&M in their excuse book is that Jaden Daniels wasn't the same. And you saw him a couple weeks against Georgia gimping through. They had to come out of that game. So it is what it is. You're going to deal with it. And it does make you appreciate these guys like Kellen Mond that can stay durable. Hell, was it KJ Jefferson? Did he finish the season last year? I don't know if he finished the season. I know he missed the LSU game.
Yep. Billy, so let's talk best case scenario here. Best case scenario, Max has an incredible season. The Aggies win a lot of games, 9-10 wins like we've talked about. He gets himself a chance to go to the NFL next year. Connor Wegman comes back after, only playing 4 games and really 3.5 games, and is healthy and ready to take this team to the next level next year.
Yeah, and Connor's got to keep his head up because that's what's likely to happen. Here's the best case scenario to me. I'm being dead serious when I say this. Best case scenario is Max Johnson goes out and lights it up against Arkansas and the Aggies win. I'm keeping it right there. Okay? Just imagine that part of it and what that does for fan base morale, what that does for I don't think it'll do a ton for the players and coaches because I know that they believe in Max anyway, but just what it does to set the table for that Alabama game. I just think if this game was already so important and now it's like, look, I do go back to the O-line. Here's what teams are going to do with Max Johnson, I believe. I believe they're going to blitz him even more. I think they were starting to get scared of blitzing Wigman too much because he can elude pressure and he gets rid of the ball so quickly. And that was his strength. And that's what made him different than most. Not Max Johnson, but different than most. He gets rid of that ball so quickly. He always seems to know where to go with it. He hits guys in stride. So with Max, I might be a better runner, but it's when it's in front of him. If Max sees a hole open up, he'll take off and go get you 10, 20, if not 30. That wasn't necessarily Connor's game. Connor was better at eluding pressure, feeling that, getting out of there unscathed than most quarterbacks. Again, this isn't a Max thing. This is Connor's better than most guys at this. He's got that Mahomes type ability to elude and avoid that. So I think teams are going to blitz more, puts that much more pressure on that O-line. I think Max is exceptional at play action. He's exceptional when he can see the big hole open up and he'll just go take it when it's there. He's exceptional at throwing the deep ball. So they need to play to those strengths. So this is where I'm really excited about Bobby Petrino. He has had offenses with guys, and again, Max Johnson can run better than, say, a Ryan Mallett or the Allen, the Allen kid or Tyler Wilson, I believe it was. He can run, but like those guys, he's a pocket passer, like the guys that Petrino had at Arkansas. He can coach, and scheme around that. That play action game could become more lethal. I think Max does an incredible job of carrying out those fakes and making it look like the back has the ball. And when he can stand back there and cut loose, boy, there's not many that can throw it like him. So Petrino will start to tailor that again towards his strengths, just like he had it tailored towards Connor's strength. Not the offense, but the plays that he calls and the sequence of plays and things like that. So, but my thing is, they're going to come after Max on Saturday. This O-line had better show up ready to block, and they need to figure out what's the best way to protect him. Is it changing personnel? Are there guys that are consistently getting beat in pass pro? If so, get them out of there. Is it, keeping a tight end into block? We talked this week about the potential of, hey, do you start putting Crownover in there a little more often as like an extra blocking tight end and still keep, a Jake or a Max in there as your second tight end? These are all things that are on the table. But if Max goes out, here's what I'll say, David. You tell me if Max Johnson has played for in a better offensive system or coordinators than what he's doing right now with Bobby Petrino. Like, to me, this is the oldest Max Johnson has been. It's the most experienced he's been. I wouldn't say it's the most talent he's had around him because he had great talent at LSU as well, but he's got all the talent you need. And now he's got the best coordinator he's played for. And so he's got the best coordinator he's played for. So why, in theory, this ought to be your best Max Johnson. And he's had some really damn good games. So if he can come out and have one of those type games and the Aggies beat KJ Jefferson and Arkansas, then, man, I think it changes the entire outlook, in terms of just the excitement and hope of the season moving forward. And I know there's 6 more conference games, but just that one game, I truly believe would do that, not just for the fan base, but also the way people around the SEC and country perceive A&M moving forward.
Any closing thoughts, Billy, before we hit a break?
My closing thought is something else I thought of. It has nothing to do with that, but just something I want to say before Friday. We've had KJ Jefferson pegged as this Aggie killer, and I heard y'all yesterday. Yeah, it was Felipe Franks in 2020 that came in here with Arkansas, where A&M rolled them. I think Jefferson may have come in the game or something. It was a blowout at one point, but he's 1-1 against A&M, and I think in their two games against the Aggies, he got hurt in the one, but he came back in again. Another instance of an SEC quarterback getting hurt. What was he in that game, David? In 2 years under Jefferson, with the great Kendall Briles that everybody thought A&M should hire, and he's slugging around at TCU now. I think he's produced 20 and 21 points in 2 games against A&M. So look, you say that, and that guy could produce double that in any SEC game this year, including Saturday. But that's the reality of Jefferson against the Aggies. So Max just needs to go out, play well. This offense knows they're going to have to go out there and score this week. But I think it all comes down to we're talking quarterbacks today. But I think Saturday, whether A&M wins or loses is going to depend on 2 things entirely. Keeping KJ Jefferson relatively contained in that pocket and that Aggie offensive line playing a good football game. That's it. It's that simple. Because you got a quarterback that if he has protection, A&M will not only move the ball, they'll score a lot of points. He's got to have blocking.
Billy, I appreciate you breaking the news here on TexAgs. We'll talk to you later, buddy.
Bye, buddy.
Later. Billy Lucci on the hotline. Rough day with the news coming out, but Max Johnson can lead you a long, long way. When we come back, we will get into recruiting country, brought to you by Caprock Health System for a segment with Bronny. To push that back with the breaking news today. Right now, the Association of Former Students is ready and excited to welcome tens of thousands of Aggie Ring Day tomorrow and Friday. To ensure that everyone has a great and safe experience, the association wanted to pass along 5 key tips to prepare for your Aggie Ring Day. Number 5, there's no parking at the Clayton William W. Alumni Center. Parking will be available at the West Campus Garage with a shuttle that will take guests to and from the Aggie Ring Day. Once you are dropped off, be prepared to walk at least a half mile. Number 4, guests will spend the majority of their time outdoors, no seating. The forecast currently calls for 90-degree heat, so those with health could be affected and are encouraged to meet at the Aggie Ring recipients after they receive their ring. Number 3, hydrate before arriving and wear comfortable footwear. Number 2, make sure that the Aggie Ring recipient brings their ring ticket and 2 forms of ID, which can be a student ID, a driver's license, passport, or Aggie Ring receipt. And number 1, there's no formal ceremony. Guests will only be inside the Alumni Center for about 10 minutes, which ensures that every student receives their Aggie Ring during their designated time block. For more information, visit tx.ag/ring day. Congratulations to everyone receiving their Aggie Ring this week.
Did you ever think about leaving when you didn't get the starting job?
Never.
How come?
I mean, this is where I want to be. I gotta get an awesome degree here, and this is where I want to be. I love the coaches, love the players. I love this university, and this is where I want to be.
All right, Max Johnson there on Saturday after the win over Arkansas. Didn't want to go elsewhere, and good thing for Texas A&M, without a doubt. Something we had talked about all summer long. Hey, you got this guy if anything happens. Well, his opportunity is now here. It is TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers here in the Rollo Insurance Studio. A condensed version of Recruiting Country presented by Caprock Health System, a faster patient-centered revolution in care with 2 ERs in the Bryan College Station area, the original 24-hour ER in South College Station on William D. Fitch, and the full-service hospital with the ER in Bryan on Briarcrest. Online, caprockhealthsystem.com. We go to the hotline, and we are joined by Ryan Broninger. Ronnie, good morning, buddy.
Good morning.
Is that Dottie?
Dolly,
sorry.
Yeah, so this is why I'm not in the studio, because my fiance is out on a business work stuff, like a business retreat for the week, and so I have to take care of the puppers.
All right. Well, the puppers looks like it's getting lives a very charmed life. Tomorrow,
She likes the one that I have the window right here. It's open, and we have hummingbirds that kind of feed in our not feed. I guess they do feed right here in our little garden in front, and so she gets a big kick out of watching the hummingbirds all day.
Nice. Busty's going to announce tomorrow, right? Tell us a little bit about where you're leaning with that one.
Yeah, we still feel pretty good. Last we had heard was that the other schools that were in contention, Texas and LSU most notably, we're trying to make late runs here this week, and kind of the way recruiting is right now, you don't take those things lightly, even though you felt like A&M's had a really good grasp on this recruitment going back to the summer. And we felt like he was getting really close to announcing a commitment to A&M at the pool party. He decided to wait and go see some places and take some official visits. But here, as we get down to decision week, we feel pretty good about where A&M's at. Jason Howe will be on the scene tomorrow in Timpson in the case that he does pick Texas A&M, that will be there for our coverage. So, that's the biggest recruiting story going on right now for A&M. But, I mean, and I know we're in a kind of a truncated segment here. I think the secondary biggest news would be what happened over the weekend inside Kyle Field with the visitor list.
Talk to me a little bit about who came and what the reception was afterward.
Well, it was like, the report card is incomplete, but they passed the first test, right? And we've talked so much about this being a turning point on the field and off the field season for the future of the program. So you got to pass these tests, and they passed the first one with an A. When you look at the visitors that were on campus, from Jordan Pride on an official visit, Cam Coleman here for multiple days, Weston Davis here after he has been flirting with LSU and Texas. So you get these guys on campus, and then also Caden Durham, a running back, a position where you have nobody committed. And one of the top backs in the state committed to LSU, makes his way down for an 11 a.m. kick from Dallas. I think that's pretty noteworthy. So when you look at the visitor list and then the reception that A&M was able to provide them, and the experience that A&M was able to provide them on an 11 a.m. kickoff, like that's what I wrote this week was one of my biggest takeaways, outside of getting those guys to campus, was that Kyle Fields, it's still got its fastball. It hasn't lost the fastball. It still plays big time on game day for the kids and their families and their coaches that are with them. It still leaves a really indelible impression. So that you got to tip your hat to the 12th man there. Every one of those kids that we talked to afterward made a comment about the atmosphere inside Kyle Field for an 11 a.m. kick on a really hot day. So, again, they've got so much to sell outside of the product. If the product can get right, it'll only bolster what they're doing.
And with the news that we found out today, if Max Johnson can keep that team going at the same level, all these things that you're talking about are still right there for you. Just keep that sizzle going with substance behind it.
Yeah, and I don't know that, again, we're in year 6 and people have heard about what's going to happen at A&M and what they're building. So, when you lose your starting quarterback and a kid like Connor that, first of all, I'm gutted for him. I just absolutely gutted for him and his family. I sent out a tweet saying that one of the more disappointing things outside of me feeling really bad for Connor is that the rest of the country was just getting to kind of figure out what guys like myself and the rest of our staff at 12 Baseball and a lot of people in North Houston had known for a really long time, and just what kind of player he was. But if Max can steady the ship, and he certainly seems like he's capable of it through his experience and his overall talent level, then I think that would be another huge boost for them on the recruiting front. Like, look, man, like, we lost a incredible talent at quarterback, and we replaced him with a guy that kept us going in the right direction and kept us competing. But all that will be determined and ironed out on the field on Saturdays, and then where it goes from there in the recruiting pitch and how that Connor's injury may influence that. We've yet to see, and we'll only know as it unfolds.
Ronnie, Cam Coleman was in town, right? And he's got some visits planned for the future.
Yeah, he's supposed to be at Colorado this weekend, but everything that we had heard coming out of the visit this weekend was outstanding in terms of how A&M presented the weekend for him, his interactions with the current players, with the current staff. They feel really good about where they're at, and it was important that they beat Auburn the way that they did and really limited Auburn's offense. And Auburn's offense has looked pretty poor this year, especially in the passing game. Has it been like 5 games where they've had less than 100 yards passing, 5 straight games for Auburn with less than 100 yards passing, or maybe 7? I can't remember the stat, but it's a lot. And when you're looking at a player like Cam Coleman, he certainly sees that. And I think once you started stretching the field late, I think that was really, something he liked. And I think he envisions himself in a receiving core with guys like Evan Stewart and Noah Thomas and what that could look like. Again, like everything we've heard, A&M did a great job with him.
Talking to Ryan Broniger here on TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. Talk to me about Caden Durham coming for an unofficial.
Yeah, I mentioned him. Big news, man. That's one of the best running backs, not only in the state of Texas, but in the country. You don't have a guy committed. You were in his final group of schools, and he chose LSU over the Aggies. And him making a trip down, and he rode with a Duncanville teammate of his, an underclass kid. But still, like, I think you laid the groundwork this weekend to get him to come back for a future game. It would not surprise me to see him on the visitor list when A&M hosts Alabama next week. That's not for sure, but it certainly wouldn't surprise me based off the stuff that we've heard coming off the weekend. And I think if you go in, you manage to find a way to beat Arkansas. And David, I don't see that there's a way that this game's not like every other Arkansas meeting where it's down to the wire. But if you find a way to be on the right side of that coin flip, that Bama list is going to be, I wrote it this week, it's going to be as good of a visitor list as any of the Jimbo Fisher era. I mean, that's where we're at already. You're looking at top players coming in from across the country, some potential guys committed to other SEC schools, some top players across multiple states making their way to College Station next weekend. So if they can keep that momentum rolling and provide a similar experience that they did for the Auburn game, I think we could see some trickle-down effect from the Alabama game, regardless of the outcome. If A&M puts a good product out there and the game day experience is really influential. Remember, go back to Jimbo's first year. They lost to Clemson. It was still a turning point mark in that 2018 recruiting class, or the 2019 recruiting class, in Jimbo's first year. So there's a lot of stuff still out there, man. It's like week to week. The individual stuff changes, but the overarching theme doesn't change. They got to win games, and they got to continue to put a good product on the field.
Talking to Ryan Broniger. Bronny, can you kind of help explain how these neutral site games work when it comes to people who visit teams and whatnot? Are they allowed to? Is it the home team only? How does that work? Does A&M have any plans for this weekend?
The home team always gets the allotment of visitors, but in years past when A&M is the home team, it's not been typically a big recruiting weekend. They'll get a few Dallas kids in there, but it's not something where they go high volume of visitors, just because that's not your home atmosphere. Right. It's easy for those DFW kids to get to the game, so that makes it convenient. But other than that, you're not really showing them what your game day has to offer. They're just going there to watch a game on A&M's behalf. So, yeah, it's not typically been a huge weekend on either side in terms of recruiting.
All right, final thing for you, Bronny. Just any last thoughts as we get close to tomorrow's announcement from Terry Bussey, and just what's at stake this weekend?
Well, it's the same stuff that's at stake every weekend. Jimbo has been, on record in the locker room speeches talking about changing the narrative, and that goes on the recruiting front too. Because if you don't win games, the narrative is going to stay the same, and it's only going to get louder. So every time they go out and play, it's an opportunity for them to kind of quell that and fight against that. But Bussy, I just feel like A&M, it's very similar to the Dominic McKinley recruitment, where you go through and you start asking around and different people, and they'll tell you, well, for Dominic McKinley, they were saying, well, it's A&M and LSU. And they were saying, well, it's A&M in Texas, or then it's A&M in Oklahoma. So A&M was the common denominator and all that. Very similar with Terry Bussey. And so we feel pretty good. I wouldn't call it a stone cold lead pipe lock. None of those are ever. Those cases are very few and far between in recruiting. But we feel pretty good about what A&M's done and the relationships they've built there.
All right. Appreciate you, Bronny. Thanks so much, man.
Yep.
See ya. Ryan Bronner, Recruiting Country, brought to you by Caprock Health System. When we come back on TexAgs Radio, Coach Alan Waddell will be joining us. Alan Waddell will be joining us to chat about the Connor situation, of course, what he saw from that defense. Right now, a moment for Caldwell Country Chevrolet, Highway 21 in Caldwell. Online, CaldwellCountryChevrolet.com. When you go to Caldwell Country Chevrolet, one thing I can guarantee you, you're going to get a great experience. And by the way, that starts online. When you go to their website, super easy to navigate through, and you see all the greatness that they have there at Caldwell Country Chevrolet. You're going to be blown away by the selection of vehicles, by the pricing, and of course, the one thing that I know you'll love is the customer service experience when you go to Caldwell Country Chevrolet. When you're looking for a brand new vehicle for your family, consider them, because the pricing is going to be great, the trade-in value is going to be great, and the overall experience is going to be second to none. It's the place that you can go and know that you're going to get that top-level service and, of course, the right vehicle at the right time for your family. 15-minute drive, and yes, that seems fast, but the very edge of Bryan to Caldwell is about a 15-minute drive. Short conversation away, but you'll see the difference when you step on the lot and do business with our friends there at Caldwell Country Chevrolet. Highway 21 in Caldwell, online, CaldwellCountryChevrolet.com. People are saying I look sad. I mean, I'm not happy. Not like sad, but I'm not happy. That's for sure. It's TexAgs Radio presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. Let's go to the hotline. Coach Alan Waddell joining us. Coach Waddell, I'm sure you've heard the news by now. Just your reaction to Connor being done for the year.
I'm sad. You might not be sad, but I'm sad. I mean, he's a winner. He's a stud. He's a guy that will win those close games for you. And it's a big setback. It's the next man up. And I tell you what, the great advantage that A&M has is we probably have the best backup quarterback in the Southeast Conference. He's proven. He's a winner. He's experienced. He loves the place where he wouldn't have stayed, came here in the first place. So I think we're in good hands. He doesn't have to try to be Connor. He needs to be himself as he was when he came in the second half of last game. But we'll be okay. Now, the receivers have to step it up. The offensive line has to step it up. The running backs have to step it up. The defense has to step it up because there's a reason Connor was the starter. So although there's a drop-off, and it's less drop-off than any other team in the conference would experience if they lost their starting quarterback, it's time for the Aggies to rally behind their new quarterback and Max take us to a good championship game.
Talking to Coach Alan Waddell here on TexAgs Radio. So what do you think the rest of the way? Like, yes, a definite starting caliber quarterback in the SEC who would start on a lot of teams in Max Johnson.
Yeah.
What does that mean for wins and losses the rest of the way, in your opinion? Everything's still out there?
Well, yeah, I think so. I know one thing. After watching Auburn's quarterbacks, they give $1 million to have Max Johnson as their quarterback. I mean, it might have been a different game if he'd been quarterback for Auburn. That's one of the worst Southeast Conference quarterbacks with the day of NIL and the portal. That there's no excuse for that at Auburn. I'm sorry, and I like Auburn, and I like Hugh Freeze, but their quarterback situation, they might not win another game. I think the big difference is people are going to be able to prepare for Max a little different now. He was a surprise coming in, left-handed quarterback. All those things to kind of make adjustments with, but I don't see that much of a drop off if the rest of the team will step it up. I don't know if last week's was a test for our defense. I don't know how to feel about it because they were so one-dimensional. And Auburn did run the ball a little bit on us, there for a couple of stretches, but before we just packed the box and made them throw it. So I really think if we continue to get better on defense, the running back by committee continue to stay healthy and gets after it. Like I said, I think our receiving core will match up with any receiving core in the conference, and that makes Max Johnson a better quarterback. So I don't see us. Maybe we don't have as good a chance because we lost a very outstanding quarterback, but we still got a great chance to run the table, do what we need to. That won't be the difference. I don't think we'll look back and say the reason we didn't win this one or that one was because of our quarterback. I think he's plenty steady. I think it will be because the offensive line didn't rise to the occasion, or the receivers dropped passes, or the defense didn't play wrecking crew defense. I think those will be the reasons rather than the quarterback situation. It's a shame. I love Connor. I think he's a great quarterback. Max has his chance. That's why he came to A&M, and we'll be ready to go. We'll start it up on Saturday at Jerry's World to find out.
Former A&M linebackers coach Alan Waddell with us here on TexAgs Radio. All right, so you mentioned something that I think we all kind of agree with. Defense looked way better, but how much of it is because Auburn is just atrocious offensively? All that being said, they were more aggressive, Coach Waddell. Just so, what did you see about the way they attacked Auburn?
Well, they wanted to put pressure on the quarterback. He wasn't very good, and he had happy feet, and he couldn't go to his second and third reads, and so you bring pressure. And by bringing pressure, you also put pressure on the run game. So they had a great game plan. Let's go get people. We're very talented. We're very athletic on our defense. So those are the type of people you turn it loose and let them go. So the game was just a weird game. I mean, I felt like we dominated the football game all over the place. And yet after the scoop and score, it's 13-10, in the second half. So it's one of those funny feeling games. We ended up, quote, scoring a lot of points at the end and that kind of stuff. I think we wore them out because we've got great depth and they don't. But it was just a weird game. Like I said, the Aggies won every phase: kicking game, run game, pass game, defense, offense. It doesn't matter. We won the whole deal, and yet it was close until the fourth quarter. So it's kind of weird. But no, I think Durkin had a great game plan. He he'd pull his ear back and let's go. We're better than them, and we're going to take the game to them, and we're not going to sit back and let them dictate to us a running game and a passing game.
Talking to Alan Waddell here on TexAgs Radio. I know you have an expertise when it comes to linebackers. So the linebackers this year, arrow pointing up. Torian York, freshman of the week for a reason. He's been great.
Yes.
Coach Waddell, what about Coop too? As like the whole group,
Coop.
just talk to us.
Coop, York, they're it's really fun to see them fly to the football. You know, their leadership on the field is there because we have some young defensive linemen. They're getting them lined up. They're making all the coverage calls correct. They're flying to the football. They're making sure tackles. There's very few missed tackles. I tell you what, they're linebackers that they look like they want to get their butts to the ball, and they're mad when they get there. And that's a nice way of saying it because they're the type of linebackers we've been looking for at A&M. They're really playing great football. Really excited about the future and this team and the future. We keep getting linebackers like that.
Coach Waddell, what about KJ Jefferson? A&M's had some success against him. They're 1-1, but as Billy said a little while earlier, I mean, they're scoring about 20 points a game against A&M. This team can explode for a lot more points. How do you neutralize KJ and his ability to throw on the run?
Well, he's a unique quarterback. He's a running back that can throw the football. You know, they've got another good running back. I don't know if he played last week, but he was hurt a little bit. But he's against LSU. But they've got a pretty good run game, and he complements that with his passing game. He's just a hard kid to bring down, you know, because of his size and strength. And he's a good quarterback, especially when he gets out of the pocket. So you kind of got to keep him in the pocket, I think. I think you have to get to him and hold on. The posse is coming. You know, we'll just hold on. One person might not bring him down, but the rest of us will. And I think you need to punish him. There's a lot of body there, so there's a lot of body to hit, and we need to have a lot of Aggie bodies hitting on him to wear him down. It's a funny game. You know, we've got a great record in the series against Arkansas, but every game it seems like has been a nail biter. I mean, it's just been back and forth and not over and overtime. And, you know, a fumble recovery is the difference in the game. It's just been one or two plays every year. And so hopefully this year the Aggies will take control early. They won't be looking ahead. It is the definition of a trap game with Alabama coming up. Alabama will be here soon enough, and everybody will love it. And CBS will be doing the game day here and all that stuff. But it's the time to concentrate on Arkansas. Don't let these Arkansas people, just like we have a bad habit of letting one of the Mississippis beat us every year. Let's take care of business against Arkansas and then have fun getting ready for Alabama and a great football contest that will be.
Coach Waddell, last thing for you. They've got a tight end, a freshman tight end who's awesome. We talked about ours in Torian York. There's Luke Haas, 6 catches and 2 touchdowns versus Bama, had 4 catches, 78 yards, and a score against BYU. What do you do when a team's got that many weapons? Who knows if Rocket Sanders is back? They've got some big wide receivers as well.
Yeah. No, they're talented. There's no doubt. You've got to mix it up. You got to find how if you have any mismatches. Can our linebackers cover that tight end, or has he got too much athletic ability? Are our safeties big enough to cover that tight end? You know, that's the first thing. You got to identify their players and who they're trying to get the ball to. We got to get physical with the big receivers out there and not just let them be physical against us. I think we have to mix our pressures up. But I think the main thing is you got to put pressure on the quarterback. Make him throw the ball quick. Don't let him hold on to the football and go through his progressions. If you do that, and the big key in this ball game is like most ball games, is our defensive line versus their offensive line. I think that will dictate where they score a lot of points or not.
Coach Waddell, thanks so much for your time. I appreciate you. We'll talk to you soon.
Yiggum, see you later. See you in Alabama. Take care, David.
Take care. Alan Waddell here on the hotline. All right, when we come back, some final thoughts. I know you guys have texted the show. I know you've mentioned stuff on the chat. We'll try to get into some of those and finish off the show here on a Wednesday. It's TexAgs Radio. TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Let's go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center because, of course, as we've been predicting for weeks, something came out of the Sam Pittman press conference or the teleconference a few minutes ago that just makes you say, of course that's going to happen. Kennedy Cabin there at the Angry Elephant News and Social Center.
During the SEC teleconference, Arkansas head coach Sam Pittman said he is as confident as I've ever been since the Western Carolina game that Raheem Sanders will play this weekend versus Texas A&M. Arkansas is still monitoring how Sanders recovers after each practice.
Of course, Rocket Sanders is...
Where'd you see that, Kennedy?
On TexAgs Twitter.
That's right, because we cover everything at TexAgs. Just thought I'd remind everybody.
I'm glad you made that reminder. We cover everything, even during the show. When you guys think we're not seeing, we're seeing and we're listening and we're hearing. But, of course, as predicted, Rocket Sanders is going to be completely healthy. That's how it always is. And Jalen Milroe will become like a Drew Brees passer by the time he plays A&M. It's all right, though. That defensive line going to go eat. There was another tweet that caught my attention as well, Miss Cavan.
Pittman then went on and said, fortunately for A&M, they have a very good quarterback in Max Johnson, and then says that he hates to see a promising quarterback like Wegman suffer such an injury, especially given how he had been playing this season.
I like Sam Pittman. I do. Still think Jimbo's a better coach, but I like Sam Pittman. And Max, it's your job, buddy. Let's go get you in the first round of the NFL draft by having an amazing rest of the season. How about that? Let's keep him healthy, though. Get some push off the line and certainly keep our quarterback healthy. Marcel, Reed, Jalen Henderson, you guys get some reps in just in case. All right, that's going to do it for TexAgs Radio on a Wednesday. Tomorrow on the program, the last show before I head out to the Metroplex with OB, we'll have our good friends, the Fan Show folks. We'll have Stephen McGee. We'll have Ryan Swope. We'll have Aaron Torres. We'll have your thoughts and all that. Thanks to Billy for calling the show earlier and the rest of the crew. That is TexAgs Radio on a Wednesday. We'll see ya mañana.